have on purpose
That's
because
fine.
I was.
Oh, what's up? We're live on YouTube. I'm putting the link on the Instagram right now, and I'm tagging you in it so you could share it if you'd like to share it.
Okay.
All right. This is BFS Live, episode 75. That's pretty exciting. I'm here with Montana Ricky, which is amazing.
How's it going, Buzz?
Good. Before I get the podcast going, I'm just going to disseminate a little information here. I'm currently planning a big event called Wrench Fest. It's going to be March 8th. It's going to be an all-day little kid stuff in the morning, free pancake breakfast. There's going to be a bike jam, a trails jam, a scooter jam, a skate jam. I'm going to have vendors. We're going to have DJs. Stevie Zolo is going to do a rap set or whatever you call the music he makes. So that's going to be really cool. If you're listening to this and you want to be involved, you want to be a vendor or something like that, just reach out to me. Also, if you like what we're doing with the podcast, you can support us on Patreon. That will be in the description. But today we're here with Montana Ricky, a friend of mine, a gentleman who's been in the bike industry forever. You've done a lot. I've done a lot. There's a lot of people that have done so many things and worn so many hats. And so for all your bike people, you're going to know Ricky. For skateboard people, you're not going to know this guy, maybe just from a Starbucks soap crash video. But
they would also know me. If skateboarders would know me because I hung out with Ryan Simonetti, who rides for XYZ and Zephyr boards. I've been in a lot of his videos too in early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
So maybe there's some actual skateboarders that do more than just watch the typical what's trendy now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, it just depends. You know, in biking, you know how it goes. Everyone follows a certain trend, so they don't really, you know, fall off of that. But there are dorks like me and you that find ourselves in everything.
Yeah. So I know I sent you a little outline. You didn't read it because you want to be surprised. But the general framework of today's podcast is we're going to kind of get a rough idea of who you are. You're someone that I'd like to have on the podcast over and over and over again. So I don't want to go too far into any one specific thing. We're going to keep this kind of like higher altitude just to lay the groundwork of who you are. So the first half will be a little bit of that. We're going to do a middle section that I'm calling my 2 cents, where we're going to actually, I always pick some thing that happened in the news this week. We're just going to talk about it and just get your 2 cents on it. And then the second half, we're going to go a little more specific on stuff. And then we're going to finish with some rapid fire questions, which is always a good time. So, you know, like I said, Ricky's done it all in the bike industry. So, you know, my first question basically is give me a quick background on who you are and your relationship to progression oriented sports like BMX and whatnot. Give me your like 5 minute your bio.
My bio.
Yeah, however you want to sell that to me
Okay.
or the viewers to let the
So
people know who
this
you
would
are.
be this would be I'm the youngest of 17 kids. I'm from Great Falls, Montana. Pretty small town. That the type of BMX that I grew up with was that, like, look up to a couple dudes that kind of rode, and then you kind of had to pave your own path. Um, there's been some pretty decent amount of riders that have come from where I've came from. Dave Thompson, Eddie Cleveland, uh, Caleb Quambeck, and then the other guys that I grew up with. But um, I grew up in a town where, I guess, since I've traveled a lot and I've seen the world, I didn't grow up with like typical racism because there really wasn't too many races. It was just Native Americans and Caucasians, I guess, is whatever you call it, right? So I never looked at the world as being like this rainbow until I left it, and I always just felt like the whole world experienced the same thing that I felt, which was like we're all poor, we're trying to make our way out of that black hole, and the only way to get out of the black hole is to ride a bike. And somehow, some way, when all my friends were partying and getting fucked up on meth and everything, I was like, I'm just gonna go in the front and ride my bike. I would hang out with them. I would never ditch them. I would be there, but I always just wanted to ride. So I'd be at a house party. I remember getting drinking, smoking, partying, sleeping with chicks, and I would just be out in the front practicing foot jam bar spins and whatever new trick came out I saw in the magazine. Because I always thought if you saw something in a magazine, you had to do the exact same thing. And since I didn't have ramps or anything, I was like, I'll just do a bunny hop. Obviously not backflips and flares and shit like that, but cannonballs or anything. I was like, I'll just learn it bunny hop. But being the youngest of 17 makes you always want acceptance. So I always found myself being a clown because I wanted to be noticed because there was just so many people that I had to fight against to get the attention. And personally, which is this is gonna sound really crazy, I'm actually an introvert that forced himself to be an extrovert.
Not buying it.
So I know, right? But it was the only way that I could get somebody to notice me was to be something I didn't want to be. So I just kind of created a character, and then somehow the character created to this goofball that wears a fucking hat like this and sticks his tongue out and has glasses, right? But
I can totally
as
relate
a
to that because I'm completely an introvert as well. But if you want to make it in the the current market landscape, you have to do content, and you have to. It's almost like working retail. You could put on your retail face to some degree, but to do any sort of video work and interact with a lot of customers like a skate park, you kind of have to be. I'm really surprised you said that because, like, at the end of the day, extroverts get charged up, they get energized from interactions with people to where
correct.
introverts get burnt out. And what you just told me sounds like you must get pretty damn burnt out with your boisterousness or however you want to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm faking it half the time. So like I always just say this. You could see me on social media and you can think Montana Ricky's a fucking dork, but I'm purposely doing that. If you get to actually meet me and know me and talk to me, uh, you'll get to see a different type of person. And to get that different person, you're going to have to earn it. I don't have to be on social media and give you who I really am. I'm going to give you that character that, you think you want. And it's not that I'm not being authentic or being myself. It's just, it's easier for me to not think and just wing it with the character thing. And then, behind closed doors, it's a lot different. But I think that's what screwed me up a few years ago when I got in trouble is I brought out Ricky Lopez and then I tried to interject it with Montana Ricky, and those two characters don't work too great together. And if you put a fucking camera in front of me and a microphone, I have a hard time. Like, I guess my hardest thing is I'm not good at bullshitting. I'm good at exaggerating, like amazing at exaggerating.
Well, yeah, you're a sales
But
rep.
at the end of what's that?
I said you're a sales rep, so yeah. comes with the
Yeah,
trade.
but my type of sales is completely different. Like, I would say when I'm selling something, I'm putting myself in your shoes, and I treat your business like it's my business. So we're partners. We're not. I'm not your juice you up and try to do something to get something out of you. I could talk to you for 2 years before you buy something, and I'll never force you to do anything. I'm always going to make the best decision that benefits you. And I think that comes from being a person that was always overshadowed. Like all my brothers and sisters are fucking talented, all of them. They're all good at something. My dad was a professional boxer. Uh, I was adopted by my grandparents, but I was adopted as a baby. So like I didn't live with my mom and dad in that. I was in and out of foster homes since I was in and out of foster homes till I was 6 years old. So I kind of had a really, really crazy life. And my mother is my sister. I don't even think of her as my mom. So all my brothers and sisters are just absolutely batshit crazy, but at the same time, besides being batshit crazy, they're really good at certain things, and a lot of it is carrying on attention. So when you have people that are like me, naturally gifted at talking and have a silver tongue, and that's all your brothers and sisters, it's impossible to get that at center of attention. So you got to be extreme as fuck, and that's why like if you get me around Catfish or Steve Crandall or someone, I have to outdo them, and my outdoing is going to be crazy. And I don't know why I act that way, but I mean, I strive off of getting attention. And that's a hard thing. And at being 42 years old, I got to realize, like, dude, you're old now. Like, why do you need that attention? But I guess that's like how a flower needs sunshine.
Okay.
I
Well,
need attention, you know?
I did want to comment that it is healthy to acknowledge the fact that when you're on social media, you are putting out a facade. I think a lot of people
Right.
don't realize that, and they blur the line between who they are and the projection they're trying to put out in the world.
Right.
And when you are cultivating content with a specific um, idea in mind, with a specific motif in mind, you're it's this isn't exact. Well, this is pretty close to what I am, but all my stuff on social media, in my vlogs and everything, it's like that's a modified, adjusted version of who I am that fits what I need to do.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's
I
healthy
mean,
you said that.
you're a dork with a fanny pack that has what the fuck is that thing you carry on you all the time? That the
The,
most best
the
thing
U.S.
I've ever heard.
Constitution.
That's the greatest that you literally are my hero. Like no one's gonna guess that. Has anyone? No one's even guessed that. When you ask them, I'll give you $100 if you can guess what's in my fucking fanny pack. No one's ever
Yeah,
gonna get it. You
yeah.
know.
Well, there is anything else to
Okay.
your fundamental being that you want to add in there before I move on to some of my questions about like who you are? Can you just give me a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
resolution on your career, your tenure, your life in the BMX world? Like, give me a quick like I did this, I did that, I did that, I did that. Give me that. Hit me with it.
So every scenario that I've ever gotten is luck. So, uh, when I was 14 years old, I went to a two hip contest, and Ron Wilkerson put a camera on me, and I was like, "Holy fuck! I'm so excited! I feel like I got a circus in my pants." And then Ron's like, "Oh my god, I love you, kid." And then I just started riding the ramp. And then a year later, I like not on purpose, but ended up doing a couple shows for him. Then I went to Spokane, Washington, and I did a show for like Redline. Like everything is just situational, and to get those situations, you got to put yourself in that. I mean, the first time I met Robbie, it was at Metro Jam, and Robbie's on one side of the fucking stadium. I'm on the other, and I'm like, "Hey, Robbie, fuck you, motherfucker!" Like, And now, 25 years later, like I talk to him every single fucking day, and now I'm working with him and his brand and destroying it and doing whatever we're working. I I looked at BMX as something that was out of reach where I was, but the only way I was going to be able to get it was to just not think about it and just go to it. I would work like I got out of high school, I worked at an Air Force base scrubbing dishes, and my boss came up to me and he's like, "What do you want, kid?" And I was like, "I just want days off." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to do to give what do I got to what would you do for me to get days off?" I said, "Look, If you give me 4 days off in a row, I'll work 3 months straight and I'll work everybody's holidays. And he goes, well, why are you going to do that? I said, all I want to do is work, make enough money, hop in my car, and drive to the home ave ditch in San Diego. And maybe I'll bump into Gary Young. Maybe I'll see somebody that's there, and I can meet someone and something will happen. And that dude's like, okay, bet. And he gave me that. And after the 3 months, he's like, hey, look, take 2 weeks off. I'll pay for it. And when you come back, you're going to be the youngest manager we've ever had. And so it was
Okay.
like everything that I've ever worked for in BMX, everything outside of it, I never thought of, but I worked harder doing the shit I didn't care about to get the shit I wanted. And the shit I didn't care about just worked for me. And so every job I've ever had, the people were like, I love you so much because you'll never take days off. But I know why you don't take days off because you want weeks off. So I I dedicated and did everything I could for BMX. And I would go places and do things and I would just meet people. And once you start meeting people, you get a name for yourself. And then people start giving you a nickname like, oh, hey, you're that Montana guy that's from Montana that's at every contest. Don't you live like 36 hours away? I'm like, yeah. They're like, where are you staying? I'm like, in my car. How long are you going to be here? I don't fucking know. I'm just going to be here. I would want to ride, right? And I did everything I could to try to make it in BMX. And I always tell kids are always embarrassed, like, oh, I don't want to get sponsored. That should be a goal of yours. There's nothing wrong with having the goal of being like, look, I want to ride bikes. I want to get good at it. And maybe one day I'll get recognition. I'll get hooked up. I'll get sponsored. I'll get help. I'll get this. And I always just told myself while I was watching props, I was like, one day, somehow, some way, I'm going to get sponsored. And I was like, I don't want to be the biggest thing in BMX. I just want to be a part of BMX. And so I traveled a lot. I met a lot of pros. I made friends. I probably pissed a lot of people off, but those people I don't know anyway, because, you got a 50-50 chance people either like you or they hate you. And so
Yeah.
whoever hated me, I don't know, but the people that liked me, it just worked for me. And
So
I kept, you know, um,
for context, when did you start riding? You're talking about all this traveling. You said you're 40. So what era are
I'm
we talking
40,
about here?
I'll be 43.
Yeah. So you said
Uh,
you're so what is this? The 90s?
yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. So I started, BMX to me doesn't count when you start pedaling. That's stupid. You, you're pedaling a bike, you're not riding. For me, is when you start doing tricks. I didn't start doing
Yeah.
tricks until I was 10, so 1992. You
And
know what I
then
mean?
so then by what? By time you're 15, 16, you were traveling, or was that a little bit later?
I was traveling way before that. I was traveling when I was 12.
Okay. Wow.
Dude, I was
Okay.
legitimately hopping in dudes that were 20 years old, getting in the car with them, doing beer runs for them. Because I knew if I went to jail, it wasn't real jail. Dude, I just hung out with the older dudes and went in. And my parents were so cool that they allowed me to do whatever I wanted as long as I told them what I did. And so I could drink, smoke, do drugs, do whatever I wanted, but as long as I told them. And since I had that freedom, I never did it. I mean, I did drugs. I never drank a day in my life. But since my parents gave me the option, since it was an option, I got to make the choice if I wanted to do it or I didn't. And I just dedicated everything to BMX. And yeah, dude, if you right now, if it was 1998 and you lived an hour from me and you're like, yo, let's go to Vegas right now, I would quit my job, sell something to get money. I would drive to you, pick you up, and we'd go to Vegas with no
Okay.
rhyme, no reason. At that time, we have to go to the internet, which there isn't even an internet. We have to use the map. We have to use a map to find where we're going.
Yeah,
And
my
then we
first
want to
road
look
trips were
for,
the same way.
yeah,
We would
when
like
you
print
look for a
you'd print
skate
out the
park,
MapQuest directions or use a map to like figure it all out.
yeah. And then when you want to stop to go to a skate park, you go to 7-Eleven, and then what does the dude say to you? Oh, skate park? Yeah, yeah, that's just 20 blocks this way, take a right, you'll see a big tree. You go 20 blocks, take the right, you see the big tree, you see a big ass sign that says state park, not skate park, state park. That would happen all the time. And then after a while, you just get used to it. I I just lived a feral life, like a kid that grew up with a pack of wolves, and my teachers were older riders. That's why,
Yeah.
like, I'm very opinionated on a lot of things. Uh, I think like an old head, but it's because the guys that taught me, uh, like, gave me that, like, dude, you're gonna earn your own way. Don't be a pussy. Don't run breaks. All this
Yeah.
weird,
Yeah.
stupid stuff that was trendy during the times. And I,
So eventually you worked into the bike industry. I'm sure you worked at a bike shop, right? I think you ran a shop or owned a shop at a certain point.
yeah, I worked at it and then became part owner.
And was that the first? Did you work at other shops prior to that, or was it the first shop you worked at? You eventually became owner.
No, that was my first shop I ever worked at.
How long did you work there before you came part owner?
2 months.
Okay. And what was this shop like? Like, what were their clientele, and like, what was the main? And did
uh,
that change when you
so,
became owner?
so Knickerbiker, Great Falls is like a town of like maybe 40,000 people live in it. It's a small town bike shop. So we had Trek, Giant, Specialized. We made a lot of money off of repairs, and we just sold comfort bikes,
Mhm.
with mechanical disc brakes, step through
What year?
frame. This would be 2013.
Oh, so Trek Navigators.
Well, it would be the Expedition for the Specialized, and then the Giant. I didn't have Treks.
Oh,
I had
Giant. So Giant would have been
Giant,
The Sedona, and the
Sedona. Yeah,
Sequoia. It's like the Sedona was the
yeah,
26, the Sequoia was the fitness hybrid. Yeah, I did Trek and Giant for like a decade.
yeah, yeah. Right, and it's so funny how you can translate, uh, I guess, corporation to BMX. Corporation gives you all these tools to make BMX so much easier. And the problem with BMX when it comes to complete bikes is they take so much knowledge that they think a good bike is being an aftermarket totally great bike, but they're skipping the idea of what a BMX bike is for. A BMX bike, when you're selling a complete, is usually for a young kid that's never pedaled, doesn't know how to bunny hop. So it's not how good the bike is, it's the price. The buy-in is the hardest part. Like, the
Yeah,
kid's got to buy in first, and most parents can't afford more than $200. So at that time, I was selling the step through Specialized bike with a one piece crank, half inch pedals. Like,
yeah,
that bike would outsell any of the fits. The Brian Foster, the Justin Inman, the Benny L's, all of those. I would sell 100 to maybe 10 of those BMX bikes.
yeah.
But it's because I know those BMX bikes, so that's why I liked it. And I feel like, as a guy that owned a shop and worked at a shop, that's what makes me dangerous in the world of being
Yeah.
a sales rep, is
Now,
because I
you
understand.
told me a crazy story about like you're like living in the shop. Is this the same shop, or was that a different time?
Yeah, yeah. This is the same time. So, I would stay wherever I could, and my partner ended up basically.
Business partner?
Yes,
Okay, I thought I
and my
specified
business
romantic
situation is.
partner, business partner.
No,
Just
no, no.
clarifying.
My business situation is weird because he's like, look, I'll just give you 25% of this. You run the BMX, you help me, we'll go from here. But I'm such a free spirit. Like, within 2 months, we start doing this deal, and then all of a sudden, I go to cab, or not cab, to Interbike, and then I just get an offer like, hey, you want to come work for Merit? And then I go work for Merit, and then I come over to the East Coast. And when I came to the East Coast, I was kind of like, oh shit, I got to ride harder because I got to prove to all these motherfuckers here I'm a good
Yeah.
rider.
So
So,
what year did you come
but
to the East Coast?
November 17th, 2014.
And how long were you at that bike shop you were speaking of?
Off and on, for like, with the ownership stuff, for like probably a year. That was it. But I
Okay.
mean, I was with the bike shop for like 5 years or so.
So
So the
you,
ins and outs and everything that we have, without speaking about that shit publicly, I mean, behind closed doors, I mean, you talked about it and stuff. But, there's a lot when it comes to being a shop owner. It's fucking a dedication. It's
yeah.
not a money maker. It is, it's, you're going to sacrifice you're going to sacrifice your firstborn just to survive. you, you know, you get what I mean by that.
I think across the board, in the bike industry. That's kind of how it is, especially in BMX. I mean, it's unique that you have been on the consumer side, on the shop side, and now on the industry side. What do you think is like the biggest differences between those three positions? Like, where is the biggest disconnect between the consumer, the shop, and working in the BMX industry itself?
Transparency. So it's taking three different people with three different point of views and teaching them we all have the same agenda, but we need to understand we're completely different. So the owner of the bike company, for the longest time, especially the guys that I work for, their mindset was my customer is the rider, but their customer isn't the rider because they're not selling direct. They're selling to a bike shop. So the bike shop is the customer. The ending person is the rider, right? And so when you have a bike shop guy, they already know who the customer is, what they're going to sell, how they're going to sell it. They just don't understand where does the pricing and everything come from. So when you've been at all three positions, the only thing I've never done is owned a bike company, but I've been offered 4 bike companies. So like recently I got offered one for $1. So it's like,
You care to mention that what it was, or you can tell me off camera?
man, it's I the whole point of me saying that was it's because they just want me to be a part of something. But I don't have the money or the balls to risk it. So for me, I feel like if I'm going to do something, I want to do it wholeheartedly and I want to do it from the beginning. I don't want to piggyback. And that's why as being a sales rep and in a position I'm completely different than anybody else because I consider myself a consultant. So working for
Okay.
the brands that I work for, I don't put it in there like I'm an employee. I put it in as, okay, I own this company, hypothetically, and I need to do whatever I can to make that company owner money. And I need to know the bike shop is taken care of, and the bike shop's going to get everything that they want plus more. So I do a lot of job. I do a job that most won't do because most people just go to work, collect a paycheck, and say, "Fuck it." You know what I mean? Me,
Yeah.
I take it a step further, and that's kind of where there's gray areas that come in because you
How does
can't.
that work in with the fact that there are shops in, I would say, a minority of places, right? Like what percentage of, you know, riders, whatever you want to put it, by per capita or by geographic location, have a bike shop within driving distance? Not even saying a bike shop that does BMX.
Almost all of them. The problem that you have is, let's just take BMXers for an example. Their first instance of getting denial, like, I wish, this is crazy. I'm thinking of it this way. Picture you want to do a fucking handrail and you see the perfect rail. No matter what's in your way, you're going to make yourself get to that rail and do the handrail, correct? Well, what ends up happening when you find the local bike shop and the bike shop doesn't support BMX, once they go in there and they get shot down, they give up. They don't realize, like, hey, look, this owner doesn't understand BMX. Maybe you need to talk to him. Maybe you need to go in there and say, hey, look, I'm not trying to bother you do anything. I just want to support you and have you order the stuff for me. Can you get this for me? You have to have those conversations. And the problems that we have is most bike riders, if a person doesn't understand what they're into or how the things go, there becomes this little tension where they're like, it's just not worth my effort. Fuck this. I'll go online and buy, right? But
Well,
also
I
at the
think that's
same
the
time,
shop's fault as well, though, because the shop isn't like if someone comes to me and they say, I want this specific part that I don't have, I can go to whatever distributor or company to order that one part. And I'm paying shipping on it no matter what. While that consumer can pretty much get it from any online retailer with free shipping with a promo code. So it makes it really challenging for me as a
correct.
shop to order that
But what
one
is
thing.
your job? Hold on. What is your job to do when a customer comes in? What's your number one job? I'm a customer right
To
now
provide
coming
them
into
with.
you and I say, hey, Dave, I was wondering if you can get me the stogie pegs.
Yeah, in a lot of scenarios when this happens, I tell them, listen, I could order it.
Okay.
It really depends what company it's coming from and how long it takes. Like any West Coast company, I tell people, listen, I can order it for you. It's going to take a week. They're going to charge me shipping. Like I can meet you halfway on that. But honestly, for the customer and like the way I operate, I'm like, you're literally better off getting it from an online place because you're going to get it cheaper and faster.
So here's where it comes. Me and you have conversations like this all the time when we talk about business stuff, right?
Yeah.
Here's where you got to flip the way that you think. Oh, hey, Ricky, I'm really glad you came in and you want to buy something from me. Listen, with Primo, I really don't have an account with them, but I do have an account with Colt. I have an account with Fiend. I have an account with Kink. Any of these guys offer similar pegs that are in a similar size. Why do you want the Stogie? Oh,
Well,
well, I'm interested in a
obviously, I'm going to
5-inch
do
peg.
that.
I get that, but this is that part that I'm saying to you right now. Most of the time, the bike shop guy doesn't know anything about BMX, so he's not motivated. And so he just kind of gives in, right? For you, you just know, all right, well, BMXers are a little bit flaky, so they're going to complain about pricing.
Well, it
So for
depends on
you,
the
you tell him
customer,
all that.
really. There's a lot. Okay. Part of this conversation ties into the decentralization of action sports, which is something we'll talk about on another time. But there are a lot of riders now who don't care about anything, but the riders that do are very specific about what they care about. So there are, and you could tell, you could read, I've done doing this long enough, I could read that customer, whether they say they like saw whatever, I wanted the We the People peg, but I'll tell you, I got this. But there's also a lot of these customers that like, no, I want this one. And despite you tell them it's like the same thing, probably made in the same factory, but it's like, oh, okay, well, I can get it for you. I could try. It depends on the company. There's some brands that I just don't even have an account with, and I get
Correct.
asked for it so
Um,
little I don't even bother.
I guess so. The difference between this is I'm putting myself in your situation and being a shop owner and knowing how it is. I go over and beyond for everything. I'm not saying that you don't, but like I handle things completely different. So the one thing that I try to explain to kids is you can get anything you want as long as you're kind to people and straightforward with them. So if a kid lives in an area like Great Falls, Montana, and he can't get BMX and he doesn't want to order it online, you need to go to Bike and Key. You need to go up to Jennifer and say, hey, Jennifer, I really bad would like this. What can we do to get this figured out? But the problem that we have with kids, they just want it now, now. You have this little tiny thing called a
Yeah.
spaceship, and they want that thing now. Um, I realize that I'm a complete different breed. I do things completely different than anybody else.
I mean, this
So
whole conversation also depends on the product too. If it's like something small, and the shipping offsets the margin, it stinks. If it's something bigger, like I'll eat the shipping just to sell them a pair of bars or something. It really depends on the product. It's very situational.
correct. And I guess the hard part that we have is I know how I operate. So I'll do everything in your favor. So I know that other sales reps don't have the chance or the opportunity to do that because they don't put themselves in the situation of thinking as the owner. They put themselves in a situation of like, oh, I'm at work. Let me get my pen and paper. Oh, it's BMX. And then they, try to come up with this equation. Now I'm stopping myself inside my head because I was going to make a fucking joke and I know someone could clickbait this and I get in trouble. So this is where I want to admit that I was going to say something fucking funny, but I know how I get in trouble. So instead of doing what I normally do, I'm going to say, look, if if you get the chance to work in BMX, why don't you do the extra step? Everybody's goal is to try to be something that they looked up to or wanted to be a part. And I feel like some people that make it to that point, they get there and then they lose all love and attraction for it because they made it. They got the one thing they wanted. Once they got there, they didn't know what was past that or what could happen here. And so for me, I'm always pivoting. Like I'm on the phone with Bob and Garrett, and I'm like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And any mistake that's made, I take it. I'm like, all right, I made the mistake. Let's figure this out. Let's do this because I want them stoked and happy because they're the ones that are investing their money. All I'm investing is time. So I want to put in as much extra work to make things work that are better. Because the one good thing about Fiend is I don't have demerits. Like I don't have bad things that have happened to me because I've came into this process of being the first sales rep. So I don't have a mess or anything to clean, right? We've only had a distro, which our distro is uh with King. And so since they didn't have a sales rep, I have nothing to go with there. And then working with Robbie and all that, they've had a sales rep, but it's only been one sales rep. They haven't had like multiple people come in. So fixing messes and doing things is easy. And I like to, I don't know, give myself a challenge. I don't know what it is, but I also like to talk. So like think about this. I can go 9 months not talking to you, and then all of a sudden me and you talk every goddamn day for hours for no reason other than the fact that we both have things we love about. And we don't even talk about BMX half the time. We're talking about philosophy and talking about an American flag or a bug,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest part about BMX is everybody's from everything. Everyone thinks different. Everyone grew up different. And we all find this common thing that we love. And the thing that I love the most about BMX is nobody agrees on shit. And that makes me happy. Because the best way to make things work is when we're all thinking something different, but we can come together to make it the best. That's why like BMX in like right when X Games and all that came was so great because everyone's just working together. Everyone was super excited. There wasn't a thing about like, oh, this guy's making this or this guy's doing that. There was just like, let's get together. Let's make it exciting. And that's what I want for kids to have now. Like BMX is flourishing. There's tons of riders. We just nobody has extra money. Everything's more expensive. So we just got to figure out a way to work together to do things and like to make BMX stronger. Kids need to support BMX more by wearing BMX shirts, BMX hats, your company's sweatshirt, beanie. Like we need to support that. Back in the day, everyone used to do that. Now everyone wears all these trendy clothing from other brands, or they do the skateboarding thing. I got nothing against skateboarding, but you're not a fucking skateboarder, so stop buying the skateboarding stuff. Like you're a BMXer, support the BMXers, man. Like if we supported one another and we all spent money together, we would grow and get bigger. The problem is just there hasn't been a person everyone looks at that just goes, do this, do that. And sometimes that's what needs to happen. I can never be that voice, but like a Robbie
I don't think
Morales.
that's possible anymore.
No, I know that, but there's guys out there that people respect, and people would be like, hey, I'd like to listen to him. You know, it's just
Possible.
I'm going into a tangent, but these are things that I didn't even think about that just
Yeah.
came out of the spurt of it, and like I I don't know. I'm lucky to be where I am. I'll be very honest with you. As a person that got in trouble a little bit ago for doing things like this, I realized how stupid I really was because I was super emotional. I had a lot of death happen. I had like 4 people die.
Well,
My medication, I wasn't
we don't
on
have
it.
to open that can of worms. And I told
Yeah,
you,
well,
I've said
I'm
before, and
there
I tell
already.
every
But what I'm saying, I'm already in that can of worms. What I'm saying though is I can't just look at BMX and then blame BMX for my issues and my problems. Just because I live BMX doesn't mean that I need to take my feelings out on BMX. And I feel like that's what I did before. And now I've gotten older and I've gotten people that are my friends that support me. I got all these great people that are behind me. I got Kurt Rowell at Champion BMX. I got Eric at Eric Cycles. I got Larry at Stacked. I got Robbie Morales. I got Garrett. I got Bob. Bob Pratt helps me. I got Brett Downs. Like I got all these people that I talk to. I'm missing some other people. My friend Sam Cameron. I just got all these people that support me and they help me get through whatever I was going through. And I'm thankful that I went from one chapter to another chapter and everybody was like, here, work for me, help me out. Let's do this together. Let's do that. Because at the end of the day, we should be able to, you know, give a person a chance and move on. And that's where I'm thankful to just be able to do this. And for me, it's not a numbers game or oh, hey, let me get on this podcast or do that. I wanted to get on here and talk to you because we have a relationship. You're my friend. When I was going through that bad time, you did call me and talk to me, and that
well, I think everyone
that's what.
misunderstood what happened. I think fundamentally, what everyone I heard saying about it and the general reaction was not at all what I perceived it to be because people couldn't see past the specific to see what you were actually trying to say, which I think was a great point. And again, we don't have to open that can of worms, but that's
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
pretty frequently
tipping.
people. Well, it's that what there's that paradigm. It's like what is it? It's like simple people talk about smarter people talk about, what is it? It's like people, ideas. The best one's ideas. Like smart people talk about ideas. Normal people
Yeah,
talk about events,
getting
and
it.
dumb people talk about
Oh,
people, right? So like everyone thought you were talking about the person, or maybe the event of the person getting sponsored, but no one was actually looking at the idea, which was that the companies are scared to do something new, so they just go back to what they know, which is
correct.
very
And
in
there's
line with.
nothing wrong with that. That's the thing is BMX is so complex, but so easy. And the hardest part you have is if you put yourself in an owner's shoe, it's tough for an owner to be an owner because they're not allowed to speak or say the things that they need to say to make things easier for them. And that's where a sales rep comes in. I'm the voice, the ears, and the mouth, and the eyes, and the shoulder, and everything for that. So I need to think about it like, hey, when I'm talking, I'm representing a brand. But also the brand has to understand, like, hey, I am human. Sometimes I fuck up. And that's why I'm just so glad that like Garrett and Bob are so fucking dope to me and brought me on. And, you know,
It really depends
um,
on the company, though. Like when I first got into the bike industry, or the BMX industry, it was very different than it is now. Now it's so obvious that many of the brands have, they have sales numbers and quotas, and like you have to make outgoing calls, and like when I got into it, it was very much like your sales rep was your buddy. He kind of got a feel for what your shop was like. If something was running low that he knew my shop ordered a lot, he'd give me a call. Hey, I only got one of these 16-inch bikes left. But, now I feel like I don't get that sort of personal treatment, that sort of intimacy with my business, because it's more for most brands just like it's like, oh, buy stuff, buy stuff, buy stuff.
right.
It's which is,
Well, there's the B2B that comes in too. So we've turned into where we got, I don't know, what are we? We're Gen X, right?
no, I'm a millennial, but I'm on
So
the tail
what am I?
end.
I'm
You're 43.
82.
So
So what does that mean?
I'm 37. So we're both right on the edge. And based on how you were raised, and based on how I was raised, we're both more of like a Gen Xer, because growing up poor and whatnot. I didn't
Yeah,
have a
yeah, okay.
smartphone until I
So
was much older.
we didn't grow up with a smartphone. We didn't have all of that. So the hard part that we come into with the new guys now is everything's generated through the B2B system. And there's no physical or intimate reaction or interaction between that. And that's what's missing with having the voice of the company, which is the sales rep, to the owner of the bike shop. You don't know
I
what's
like
going
both. I
on
think
by
both are
reading the book.
important.
I get that. But just because if I send you a B2B and that's it, you're going to barely order. If you even order. The only reason you like the B2B is because you're at J&B and it's convenient for you. I'm not like J&B, QBP, all that stuff, right? That's convenient. That makes sense. But I'm talking BMX right now. As a BMX company, you
Well,
you
I'm
you
more of like a
gotta.
visual person, so I'll go through the sites and I'll like peruse through everything, look at everything you have, and as I'm looking through the parts that are in stock, I'm like running inventory in my head, and I like to put together an order. Like that's how I like it, and how I'd prefer is you like is it a good amalgam of both. Call me when there's a sale. Call me when you're trying to check in. When I do an order, call. Hey, I just received your order. Is there anything else you need? These are our promos. Like a little bit of both. I know the old school shop dudes, they just love the sales rep call. You know, for me, I'd rather not be called all the time, but when I order, I initiate the dialogue, and then you call me. Oh yeah, I like Chuck's pretty good over there at King, because if I order something and there's a sale, he'll call me. Hey, you ordered this wheel. We have a promo right now. If you buy the front, you get the back. So I'll throw that on there for you. Oh, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't do sales because that's what's bad in BMX. I don't do the free shipping. That's bad in BMX. But I make sure that you carry all the profit, and we'll take a piece and we'll give you the bigger piece, and we'll work with you. Um, Nothing against any other brands or whatever
That's
they
just tough
do.
when you're the only one doing that, really.
uh, there's a few people that are trying to do things that are a little bit different, and Chris Riesenberger is trying to do things over there, but he does a lot of stuff that has to do that's non BMX, which is easier to do
Yeah.
over at Merit and Theory, which obviously I'm fucking jealous because that was where I wanted to go. I wanted to be the first all BMX owned company that ran a QBP was my goal. But in a sense, what's going to make BMX stronger and better is just communication and transparency and working together. And when I say, do you want to email 1,000 times from me or whatever? Not email is way easier because it's not invasive, but also just having a conversation works out. And the way we do it anyway, I FaceTime. So we're not going to be able to FaceTime every 7 seconds. So when we do have a conversation, it lasts, it does things, right? But if we take away what me and you do and I talk to other people, I
Yeah.
know other sales reps don't call anymore. So
Yeah.
that's the winning formula. So if you're doing a B2B, fine. That's what you do. I don't do that. I like to build a conversation, a relationship, and a business. And if you work with me, you just know that I will suck your all day long, but I'm not doing it in a sense that I'm only doing that to say whatever you want to hear or do.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing it because you need a partner in this. You're already getting screwed by having to pay trash and electricity and rent and
Yeah.
everything else.
Well,
I'm just extra. Think about that. Do you need BMX to survive? Do you need BMX to survive? Besides taking in the riding, I'm just saying, do you really, really need that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, my business, the skate park can't handle a drop in riders like that. I need everything I can
Oh,
get.
I forget. I apologize. But if you went to a regular shop, me and you both know BMX is a specialty thing for them to have. It's like having
Yeah.
Yeti in your shop. Do you need
Yeah.
Yeti? Not really. You're just doing it to get the aftermarket thing. So I know it's a privilege to have a peg on the wall,
Well,
literally a peg.
I don't want to keep talking about industry stuff because that's like not really my audience. But you are correct that having better margins on parts makes it easier for shops because most shops don't want to stock BMX because the margins aren't good to begin with. And so like and it's a lot of sales of like, mid-level pricing stuff. They'd rather sell you a 500, 800,000, $1,500 bike than, whatever, $35 set of pedals that they made 40% margins on, less the space on the floor, less the shipping. But so
Correct, but you don't make that much money off a $1,200. If we sold a Robey right now, which is what, 5,000, you're 4,200 into that thing. So your margins ain't shit on it. All right, so skip this. Go to your questions because I'm just gonna get all high tech into industry
yeah,
stuff
well,
because I don't know anything else.
it's easier to eat margins on a higher ticket product because it's more cash flow. But yeah, that's like net gross whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so we talked earlier, and we've been talking about the bike industry, and something that's an issue, or at least some people perceive to be an issue, is when the companies sell products straight to consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, every scooter company's like that. You know,
Yes.
every it's tough to stock scooter parts because every single company I could only order from that one company, and there are some scooter parts like handlebars which are just big and weirdly shaped and hard to ship.
Yeah.
So basically, my question is, what's your opinion on the straight to consumer model in general? And can you steel man why that's important? Do you know what steel manning is?
So the future, I don't know what it. I have an idea what it means, but let's. I'm not smart. So
Sean,
e-commerce.
hold on. Straw man is when you like tear something down, right?
Oh,
You
okay.
you you paint it as a very weak picture. You're bearish on
Okay.
it. Steel
So
man is you argue the pros for it. Tell me why companies selling straight to consumer is good.
because the future is e-commerce. Now, what's so great about it is it's reaching a customer that wants something specific, but also wants to just support you specifically, right? But the the con of it is if you're selling direct to consumer or to the kid, your price on the website needs to be higher. So then if the kid wants something, because usually the kid's going to fish for the lower price, correct?
Yeah.
So I would rather the bike shop have that price that's better, and then the kid, if he's going to buy from me direct, it'll be a little bit higher to deter him from buying from me. But most kids, the way that they buy online now, they're buying what's the fastest, not the price, the fastest. So
Yeah.
if I live in Bristol, Idaho right now, I'm going to look for whatever shop's the closest to get me that product now. I don't care about the shipping. I don't care about the price. Now, a kid that's just out perusing and trying to create something and is broke as shit, he's going to do whatever the lowest is. Now, the kid that wants to support direct, that happens all the time. So for me, my job is to protect IBDs. So
Independent bike dealers.
yes, I prefer to make the pricing a little higher on my website, and I just sell them the clothing and stuff because bike shops ain't going to do that. And my job is to draw the kid to go to the local bike shop. We are in an e-commerce world. We do need direct. There's no way of getting around it. We have to have it. But we need a symbiotic relationship between you and me, and you need to know that I'm not your seller and competitor. That's the issue we have in some situations where you're like, I'm buying your shit, but you're also my competitor. How does this work? So
Yeah.
I want you to know with the brands that I have and who we work with, you're first. And then if the kid wants to come to us, he comes to us. But we control what product is sold. So if I know a kid's perusing for something and he's looking at something, most of the time I'll just look where the kid is. I'll contact the kid personally and be like, hey, look, that thing you're looking for is right by you. Go to Pusher BMX. You could buy it from Clay right now. I'll call Clay and tell you have it. But I'm willing to take the extra step. Robbie over at Cole sells a lot of the knickknacks and the stuff that bike shops aren't going to carry. So a majority of his sales are going to be clothing and knickknacks that he has, right? Like beer koozies and things like that, right? But for the brands that I work with, I don't want to compete direct against you. But I also want you to know if something comes through the crack and a kid wants to get something, I can control as much as I want, but the best way to control it is for you to get the better bang of the buck. And then if the kid does get it through me, he has to pay a little bit more. And then if that kid's coming to me direct, usually what they'll end up doing is searching around who's going to have it at a better price. So if I make mine higher, yours is lower, they're going to come to you.
Yeah.
Uh,
That makes sense.
and I am very bad because when it first happened, I didn't understand it. So I was treating it like it was a bike shop and I was murdering it because I was just selling the kids direct and being like, hey, go here, buy this, do whatever, right? And then I started realizing, like, what am I doing? I'm competing against my own bike shops. I'm cutting their legs out. So for me, at the end of the day, no matter what's going on, the IBD is going to win, period. Every single time, I'm always just going to look out for the bike shop because I don't have a business without the bike shop. And there is no bike riding
I don't think
without the
that's
bike
true,
shop.
honestly. I think if every bike shop stopped selling BMX, I think virtually nothing would change. But
Oh,
we don't
you'd
have to
be
go
out your
down that
mind.
wormhole. No way.
You'd be out your mind.
We'll save that for another time. We're
I like that.
we're at our
I'll
halfway
go into
point
that
here.
one.
You talk, my dude. You go. It makes sense. You're a
What
sales rep.
happened?
Said you talk. You just go and go and go. But I knew
Oh,
that
I'm
about
sorry.
you. It's fine. I mean, we're just an hour in and I'm trying to get to our halfway point.
No, I didn't know we were an hour. It doesn't even feel like an hour, dude.
Yeah, I know.
One time I did
I
a
mean, you talk for
5 hour.
a living. This is your job.
Yeah, I come from hearing my own voice, so we're good.
Okay. Keep it PG,
Okay.
buddy. All right,
Oh,
so
PG-13. I'm sorry.
we're in middle section, halftime. Take a little break here. I got two topics for my 2 cents here. I'm going to give you the pass. You're allowed to pass. The first topic, I have two. If you pass on the first one, we have to talk about the second one, okay?
Okay.
The first question, the first topic is the deportations, all the ICE deportations. You want to talk about it or you want to pass?
I'll talk about it.
What do you think?
So my father was an illegal alien who came from Durango, Mexico. His mother was kicked in the face by a horse, and he had family that already made it here to the United States. So they smuggled him across the border. He came here. Uh, Eventually, he was caught, and they brought him back to Durango, Mexico. And then, in order to get his citizenship, he ended up working for the Border Patrol as an interpreter when he was 17 to get to come into America. And my mother is from Czechoslovakia, and her parents and that were illegal aliens too. So
Are these your
coming in here,
biological parents or the grandparents that raised
these
you?
would be my grandparents. My
Okay.
my
Okay.
father, my real dad is 100% Native American, and he's from Turtle Mountain Reservation. I'm a Assiniboine Chippewa Cree. So I'm speaking as
Okay.
who, yeah, my grandparents. So my mother's from Czechoslovakia. Her family came over here. They worked on a or she worked in a hotel. My father, when 17, earned his right to come into here, made his way to a beet farm. And the way that they taught me was be proud to be an American. We're here for you to have the right to take advantage of what's so great about this place. And just because I was born here doesn't give me the right to be here if I wasn't legal. So my dad would have other Mexicans that would come and try to speak with him in Spanish. And he was always like, look, I'm an American. I earned my right to be here. I don't want to speak that. So for me, on the thing as taking it as parents that earned and came here and did what they had to do to come here to give life to everybody else in my family, I look at it in a complete different way because I was brought up where my father was so proud. Like he was an illegal, got caught, had to go back, earned his right, came here, made it, and knows how good it is to be an American. And he's not trying to steal a spot or do anything. He earned his spot. And the same goes for my mother's parents and stuff, what they went through. I never got to hear her story, but I know that they made it and they made it to Montana, and then they came together and they had 17 kids, and they never once were on welfare. They never once took any church handouts. They never once took advantage of the system. They both worked two jobs. My mother had multiple kids while at work. And I was brought up, when I told you before, racism didn't come to mind to me. I didn't grow up looking at people that way. We came from a class system, poor, rich. So the whole thing where it comes into this slippery slope of, oh, well, the new thing is if, oh, well, we're deporting kids that were born here, they're technically American. Well, you came here illegally. We're just doing technical things. I don't like the political thing. I can only give you what I've lived through personally and what my parents did. And I hope that that can translate to being like, okay, I can understand why he feels this way. Now, I have over 200 nephews and nieces because my oldest brother has over 13 kids, and his kids have kids, and his kids have kids. And we just had in the Lopez group chat and Facebook the newer kids talking about my father, who was born 106 years ago, talking about this deportation thing and not understanding when my dad was alive how he would talk about that thing. Where it would be, people would look at it and go, oh, you're Republican, or the way you're thinking about is this. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you from what I experienced and what I am, because I don't consider myself left or right or whatever. I just, if I feel a certain way about it, that's how I feel. And you can categorize me whatever way you want. And now this is weird because this is the conversations me and you have behind closed doors. I've never done this in public. So this is scarier to me than getting canceled
Yeah.
in BMX,
Well, you
you
don't
know?
have to. You could stop at any time. You don't need to keep going down whatever
But what I'm
wormhole
saying
you're
though
on
is
here.
that's how I feel. Yeah, but I hope that people can understand how I feel about that and what I think,
Yeah.
and it's based on actual what we went through.
Yeah. Let me get a little more clarity here on your familial situation. You had 17 siblings. Are they?
Yes,
What's the overlap in parents here? Like, are they all from the same? They're all from the same mother.
same mom and dad. Yes,
And then,
I'm adopted. I'm I'm the grandchild from the 11th child. I'm her.
all right.
I'm
So your grandfather was the gentleman from Mexico, and your
yes,
grandmother was the Czechoslovakian
Czechoslovakian.
woman,
Yes,
and their
yes,
11th child was your mother.
yes. And she got me taken away, and I was in and out of foster homes till I was 6 years old. And then they decided to
Okay.
take me in.
I was just trying to. You're like just talking and saying all these names, and and I'm trying to like build this map, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I need a little more clarity on the situation. But that
Well,
okay,
that's the hard part when
yeah,
you have such a big family and it's this way. But it's
I'm on the other side of the
I'm
spectrum. I have like
thankful.
no family at all.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But you had a great dad that invented a new thing for you guys to go to every year, and I'm super jealous of that. So
Yeah, yeah, the deportations thing is interesting because like to some degree, you have to arbitrarily choose. At some point, you've been here long enough and you're established enough that I personally think it's fair that you get to stay, and someone has to make that call, I guess. And one of the things going around is like, oh, they're deporting people who haven't broken laws, but if you came here illegally, you broke a law, so you've broken
yeah.
laws, right? But
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's a huge difference to someone who's been here for a couple months or has been here for 8 years, owns a home, right? Like, I feel like you have to go down the list and be like, okay, if you're on the books working, you bought a home or whatever. Like, there's a certain level of establishment where like you just get to stay, I guess. It's just tough where you decide what that line is, and no matter where you pick it, you're going to make people upset. It's kind of very similar to the women's reproductive rights. It's like you're going to have to pick somewhere in the middle that seems gray and vague and arbitrary, and no matter where you pick it, it's going to upset a lot of people, right?
Right, but
It's really
that's where
tough.
people's moral compass comes from. Like
Yeah,
like
I when I was in Jersey, I worked when the bike shop burned down. I delivered pizza at this place that all my friends worked, and like everything in Jersey, all these guys work in the kitchen. They're all Mexicans. I don't know where they actually were from. Maybe it was Mexico. I don't know. Every kitchen in every restaurant in like Jersey, they're all Mexicans working there. I don't know where they're from,
yeah,
but whatever. Dudes are awesome. These guys, they're working from open to close every day in a tiny kitchen. They're having a great time. They're smiling. They're joking. They get beers at the end of the day. They're having fun. In the morning, they come in. They're like, "Oh, last night cervezas." Like they're just working way harder than most Americans work for less money than Americans are willing to work for, and they're happy about it, right? And I think that's great. What I don't think is great is many of these people come here and they're sending money back to Mexico, and
yeah.
or they save up and then they leave and take it back to Mexico. I don't like that. Like I think if you want to come here, like there should be a path to get here, and if you're gonna work, you need to be on the books and pay taxes like everyone else, right? And then like
Yeah.
that is the American dream. Pack up your stuff, come here, build a family, build a house, do the thing, right? And generally, like I feel like it's really abstract to think of how having so many illegal people in the country affects me directly. That's kind of abstract, but I could easily empathize with people who did it legally, people who waited in line and did the paperwork and took the test, and like my buddy Phil, the from Wales, like
Yeah.
he's done everything, and like it's still like he can't vote because he's not. It's like how many people did it legally, and now they're sitting here like, well, that's not fair to me. Like I had to wait, I had to pay.
Yeah.
So it's
And
definitely
I
not.
got friends that are like there too. And that's the hard part about loops and whatever you have. Like uh I feel like if if you're so worried about all of that stuff going on, that means your life is so perfect that you can just think about things. This is the hard part. It's a privilege to be somewhere and to be a part of something.
Yeah, America is
And
amazing.
if we go into it technically, being Native American, this is our land. All you guys are fucking here. If we just went into the whole speech. But for me, I I worked here. I'll give you one. I worked on a cruise ship. I was one of like four Americans. The rest were Filipinas and Filipinos, Jamaicans and Norwegians. I was American. The worst. Holy fuck, it sucked. They just treated me like garbage, and I got an understanding of being like, all right, there's a hierarchy to system, and I've always grown up in a class system. There's upper and there's lower, right? And when you're above the lower, it's hard for you to actually see where it's at. And then if you're part of the lower, you understand where it goes. So for me, I'm sympathetic to a lot of things, but I have trials and tribulations too. So it's really hard for me to get so caught up in the weeds with certain things. But I did have the conversation with my sister yesterday with the argument about the whole thing, and then getting some more clarity on my father and what he did. And it's just
Yeah.
like my dad, who wasn't illegal, went through and said all that stuff, and then when other people would have, that came from the farm would try to talk to him, and he'd just be like, I can't do it. I earned my right. You got to earn yours. It's a lot different. Am I thinking as a Republican or am I
No.
thinking as a No, I'm not. I'm thinking as something that I lived through, that I had. It just
Yeah.
happens to be the topic today.
Yeah. People will say, "Oh, everyone was an immigrant at one point," and
Right.
I guess that's true. And even your statement about Native Americans were here first. The farther back you go, you're always going to find in
Yeah.
almost every case someone else was
From
there
the Asians,
before.
we came over the ice thing from Greenland or whatever, and we
Well, I
came
mean,
here or
there's
whatever it
there's
was.
there's stuff that says otherwise to that now too. So like whatever. Um,
Yeah.
the one point I was going to make is like in an economic sense, like the federal government should be planning for like long-term economic and geopolitical positions, like as if it was a company, right? And one issue is you can't have pretty much uncontrolled immigration and have a welfare state. You could have one and not the other. Otherwise, you're just gonna have all these people come in that are going to take advantage of those programs, and that's just a problem. So it's like I said, it's one or the other. The other thing is, you know, where's the trajectory of the industry and the economy in the United States? If we're letting all these people come in who are unskilled laborers, right? You basically have
Yeah.
three options: bring back unskilled labor manufacturing so you can give those people jobs in those industries, which is basically impossible because minimum wage wouldn't allow it. Two, you could try to streamline education of those people into more above basic industry work. Or three would be, I guess, get rid of the people. But like you can't, like if we're competing, if we don't have those jobs and we're bringing in those people, like that's a problem that has to be solved one way or another. I think we could do all this. All the strategies are probably feasible, but then the problem is like if you open factories in the United States to give these unskilled laborers those jobs, but then you have to pay them, like in New York State, minimum wage is $15 an hour. You want to have like a factory trying to compete with what's happening in China, but you're paying them $15 an hour, the cost of goods will skyrocket. Americans don't want to pay what the actual cost of goods would cost if you paid them the wages that they think they should be paid.
Well,
It's
that's the
completely
problem too. Is
disconnected.
why does every American wish they should be paid what they're paid when they're not worth what they're paid? That's
Yeah.
another problem that you have too, where you have the Americans. Uh, at the end of the day, the moral of the story for me is if you can't worry about your own life and take care of your own life, you're doing really good in life because you have so many other things to worry about other than what you're doing. I If you live in a small town in Wyoming, you're not thinking about that shit at all.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you see on the news is not even relevant. It's only because of where you live.
True.
If you live in California, you live in Texas, you live in Colorado. Colorado's crazy, by the way. I don't know if you've been there lately. Holy shit. Dude, they
I've never.
got brothels on the sidewalks. Like, it's crazy. Anyway,
I want to give you one more point in this topic, and then we're going to move on to our second half.
yeah,
And
go
it's
ahead.
actually an
What's the
interesting.
second question? I want to know the second question. That was the thing I want to know now.
It's too late. You'll have to come on
No,
again
what do you
another
mean
time.
too late?
Too late. I mean, you went right for the more controversial topic. The second one was way more benign, so you're not missing out on anything.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I heard this in another podcast, which is the Honestly podcast through the Free Press, which is really a phenomenal, very moderate, centrist, all viewpoints. Like, it's one of those. They've really blown up through the election, but they're one of those. They're so centrist on everything. Like a right winger would think they're left wing, and a left wing would think they're right wing. But I heard this really, really good idea, paradigm, however you want to put it, and it personifies why America isn't a racist place, like you're saying, and that is that Americans love an American success story. Americans do not care what you look like or where you came from. If you came here the right way I came here with a backpack by myself. I got a job at this place. I worked 3 jobs. I saved enough money. I brought my wife over here. I was going to college. I did this. And now I'm the only x-ray technician guy in the whole area. And I have 3 kids and blah, blah, blah. And I get this big truck with these stupid tires on it. And every American goes, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like. As long as you come here and like you work your ass off to do the American dream, we love it. It's only when you subvert the system that Americans get upset. It's like, hey, no, buddy. You got to pay your taxes too. You got to wait your turn in line. And then when the green light turns go, you're off to the races. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean,
because I came from nothing. I hated this whole I think a little bit of the woke culture is kind of subdued and we're working past it. But when there's a whole thing about this like white privilege crap, it would like drive me crazy because I was like, oh great, are people coming into my skate park and oh look at this white dude, everything was handed to him, and like my life wasn't remotely as challenging as yours, and I'm sure there's people you could say that about other people, but like I came from virtually nothing. Things that I honestly wouldn't, I don't even want to talk about on this podcast because I don't want to make it about me. But like I've been through some stuff, and I moved to Rochester with whatever fit in my car, and dealt with plenty of my own psychological issues to get where I'm at. And I worked hard, and I still work hard.
yeah.
So don't tell
And
me
I think
things were just handed to me, you know?
no, and as a, I guess as a brown person or whatever, not like I told you, I grew up as low class, high class. There was only Caucasians and Native Americans, and we never looked at it like, oh, fucking white boy or oh, dirty Indians or anything. We just, oh, you're poor, you're rich. And for me, I never had this. Holy crap! A Jew, a Honduran, a Jamaican. Like I didn't know these people existed. And you get into these bubbles and these things, and it's everybody meshing together with different ideas and different things, and it's so tough. The world's tough as it is, so you shouldn't feel guilty because you're born something way that you can't control.
Yeah.
Just know that you're doing what you're doing and you love what you love, and if someone tries to come and throw this stuff into you, it's just not worth listening to it. Like as a person being, oh, when someone finds out I'm Native American, oh, I'm sorry for Native American. Why? My we fought
Yeah, you didn't do that, you know.
My great grandfather signed the treaty in 1887, and the land that was given to my tribe and my people, I have 56.3 acres of that, 53.6 acres of that land. And that land isn't to put housing or anything on it. We lease grazing rights, water rights, oil rights, and that's it. And that'll always be there for my people. And I'm proud to be where I am because somebody in my family made it as far as they made it. So I never look at it like, oh, well, I feel sorry. I'm sorry. Why? Why are you sorry? You didn't do it. I'm sorry that you feel this way. You don't need to feel that way. And so for me, you get into certain conversations where people are like, oh, well, the white man or this. Dude, where I come from, there is no white man or this. It's you're rich and you could be any color of whatever, and you're poor. Poor and rich don't see eye to eye ever until they come together and start talking and doing the same thing. And once they have this conversation, it all changes. It's because you're here and I'm here. We have different point of views. But when we get to here, we're going to argue and bicker and fight. And then eventually friends. That's all it takes is to just listen to somebody, try to understand, and not do the change your mind. I can't change your mind. You can only change your mind if you have an open mind and you're willing to listen to different points of views. So that's why I like listen to the right and the left, and then the religious and the satanic and the atheists and the whatever the hell the other one, agnostics. I'll listen to it all. Yeah. Why? Somebody in each one of those places has something that's important that I need to hear. I tell you all the time, the greatest thing in the world is I know there's a library and I haven't even touched 0.000000000.1% of what's out there for knowledge. Knowledge is everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can have these ideas and base them off of feelings or things you've seen or what you watched, but why base it off that when you can just go and experience it? So that's why,
Well,
like,
you should
you know,
a good advice is to presume that the person you're talking to knows something you don't, because they always
yeah,
do, regardless of what it is. If you just think there's nothing to offer, then what are you going to learn? What's even the point?
yeah. I mean, I never took a shower until I was 19 years old. We only had a bathtub, and to get hot water, we had to put it on the stove to give ourselves hot water, and then everyone had to share the water, and it's like the last person gets a shitty one. I'm lucky that by the
Hold on.
time that I
Do you know that that's where the term "don't throw out the baby with the bathwater" comes from?
yes, and
I
then
think
I
we've
was
had
gonna
this
say
conversation.
we have,
Yeah.
because I
Okay. Yeah.
did explain this to you, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has something that's happened to them. So I've had a lot of murders in my life, and I've had a lot of death, and with that, I know there's somebody out there that's had it worse than me.
100%.
So that doesn't make me better than you. It just makes me more colder than you. So you can have a situation that happens to you, and inside my mind, I'm like, oh, that's fucking easy. Try this one. But instead of doing that, I know where you're coming from and I know you're hurting. So I'm going to allow you to talk. And then I like to give outside points. Well, you have an answer. This is what happened. This is going here. You just have to be understanding, willing to listen to people. And that's how BMX is. When you see a little kid at the skate park, the best thing you can do is like, yo, dude, check that bike out. Woo! And anytime guess what? I can get anybody on any bike to do any trick. Anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, I'm going to make you do it. And they don't even know they're going to do it because I'm so stoked to watch you ride a bike,
Yeah.
and they can feel it. It's all feelings. It's all in this. Take your glasses off, look a person in the eyes, be genuine, and give them the feeling that they deserve. And in this world, we just egos, narcissism, and greed, and the idea that you need to think the way another person thinks is what ruins everything. And it's sad to me. It's like, it's okay to debate with people. It's okay to feel a certain way. Like, everybody has trials and tribulations, and you're no better than me, man. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of conversations about what happened with you, and I sympathize with you, or whatever the word is. I can't say the word, but you know a lot that's happened to me,
Yeah.
and you just got to be understanding of people. And with BMX, I feel like we're all so competitive that the competitiveness has gotten to the point where it doesn't matter what another person says. It's just shit. It's like, stop that, man. We're brothers. Like,
Yeah.
whatever happened to be getting excited seeing another rider ride, and you're like, oh my fucking God, it's a rider. We lost that once we started choosing
Yeah.
sides. Oh, back
I brought
brakes,
that up
front brakes.
on, I don't know if it was the last one of my earlier podcasts, a couple episodes. I was talking about that I've been in BMX long enough that in the beginning, we go to ride Philly, and this is probably 2006, 7, 5, somewhere
Yeah,
in that range. And you see someone on a bike, and you're like, "Oh my God, there's someone else in the BMX! Holy crap,
yeah,
we're best friends right now."
yep,
About 5 years later, that was over. You'd see people
yep.
riding, and they'd like look up at you and look the other way, and you'd be like, "What happened here?" But also,
What do,
like,
what do you think ruined
Philly
that?
was
What
the
it was?
spot in
Yeah,
like the, what was it, probably around 2010. Like, Philly was the spot in BMX, so like it was just like a hot spot, and there's just so many riders always around. And I think, what to your question of what caused that, I think it's just the saturation. There was just so many more riders around. Maybe it was just because I'd gotten older and didn't notice. I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, you also got to remember when edits first came out, how fucking upsetting that was. You put your whole life's work into this. You see this? Do you know what this is?
It's a
This is your
VHS tape.
sponsor me tape. These are the videos that you guys put in together to make. And then all of a sudden, these little kids get this thing called the internet, and they can just go online, make their own video, and put it out instantly. It took
Yeah,
away all of the hard work and suffering and pain that we put. And
yeah.
I
Well, now you
remember
just
when
sound like an
edits
old
first
grumpy
came
guy.
out. No, no, this
Well,
isn't
let's hold
grumpy.
on,
This is
hold on.
evolution.
Stick a bookmark in that, because this is going to dovetail with my next question.
Okay.
And again, I'll bring you on another time to talk about the decentralization of BMX through the internet. But my next question on the list, since we're through our middle point, is what was your favorite era of BMX? Or what was the best era? You interpret that however you want. Are those the same? Is your favorite era the best era?
Uh, Fantasy wise, I feel like 1984 to like 89 was the greatest time ever in BMX.
Okay.
Everything was being invented. People didn't know the name of tricks. The riders were inventing what new parts, what was coming out. It was like a mad magician going in and just creating these potions and being like, no handed one footer, toboggan switch. You know what I mean? Like it was so great. But I look back and I go, man, I wish I was born in 1972, but I'm glad I wasn't
Yeah.
because I would be 52 right now, right? So for me personally, every time has been great for me for certain situations. The best time of my life ever was when I first got sponsored in my first frame sponsor from Vandal Bikes, I believe was 1997 or 98 to like
Wow.
2002. But like
That's crazy.
my greatest my greatest time would be 2000 to like 2008, and
So you're
then
talking like
I got
the tail end of mid school through the evolution of modern BMX.
well,
A lot changed in
this is
those.
funny you say.
It's crazy. I was talking to someone recently about how almost nothing has changed in the last almost decade of BMX. Very little technological change. You look at the like if you go pre 2015, you look at complete bikes every 3 years. Like complete bikes were like really evolving and changing. You get to like 2015 complete bikes, and you look at them now, they're virtually the same. Tires got a little bit bigger. Top load stems versus front loads and bars are bigger, but the bikes are really
Stems
similar.
are not stems. Frames have completely changed. The new frames are completely fucking different. Got a 5-inch head tube. You got a different yoke system on there. The back ends are done completely. We're doing cast systems.
I mean, yeah, that's
BMX,
in aftermarket stuff, but I'm saying on complete bikes.
oh, complete.
Yeah.
So I always think like mid school stopped in 2001, 2002, and I like obviously I started a Instagram site called Y2K BMX, which is 2000 to 2010, and I always try to figure out like, okay, when did old school go to mid school? Then I always say Y2K, then you got new school, and then I don't even know what to call the school now because I feel like none of these kids do their homework and they're not historians.
Well, they don't have
So
to. Really, it's probably better that they
I,
don't.
I get that, but as a person that's a fucking BMX dork, you can't say an
Yeah.
NBD is an NBD if you don't understand your homework. Like today, I just got yelled at by Mike Escamilla because I made a meme. Well, not a meme. I made top 5 riders, and I wanted to say Joe Rich was the first one to land a
Backwards rail.
backwards handrail on the street, but it wasn't. It was Mike Escamilla in 1996 on Flying
Literally,
Monkeys.
the guy who did it was like, "Yo, bro, I did
No,
that."
well, because he was going to ask me who's the first person to actually almost land it and do it, which was Ian Morris at the Worlds with Stuart Dawkins on a 30 stair handrail. The motherfucker tried a backwards handrail in 1991 or 92. So he wanted to test me on that. I knew that. But when he did his, either way, I feel like certain statements in BMX, a lot of people will have opinions, but they'll never get their opinions fact checked. They're just like, oh, it's my
Yeah.
opinion. It doesn't matter or whatever, right? It
Do
does fucking matter.
you know Matt Smith from the Yeah?
Yeah.
He has had this idea for years, and like, there's not obviously the interest really isn't there, but to have like a BMX Wikipedia, and like really like let people start like, this trick was invented this date by this
It's
person
already done. It's already done.
that
It's been
exists.
done since 1999. Every trick, every list, what companies, who did it. It's called Magazine 23.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's fucking amazing. It's got everything inside there. So you tell him he wants to know things. This motherfucker, like you could look it up. I think it's called Mag 23 or 23 Mag. Some guy out of Europe did the homework. It's the most amazing thing ever. It starts off with tricks, years, everything. Whoever did it,
I'm pulling
I
it up right
loved it.
now.
Yeah, it's great. It's the greatest thing you'll ever see. So tell Matt,
Oh, it's not even.
and
It's not in English.
it's in English.
It's in French.
Yes, but you can switch it to English.
Yeah, I'm translating.
So if you really want like historians in BMX, I feel like since I'm Native American, I'm more of a linguist. Like, linguistically, that's how the tradition of history was passed from Native Americans. I feel like I want to collect stories from riders of stories of other guys. That's why I talk to every BMXer there is, because I'm a fucking dork, right? And I feel like the language and the stories haven't been passed down enough. Everybody has a story of somebody in their scene, and
Yeah.
they've me and you could see the same thing but have a different story. So I feel like in BMX, I've always just wanted to be the person to talk to everybody and pass on a story that they give me. That's why I'm like that social bug. Look at that, you're getting a BMX boner right now, you're welcome.
Yeah.
uh
I mean, it's not. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. It's like basic air tricks. There's nothing about grinds in here. Pull it up
well,
to
you
me.
got to look at what he's trying to crack into.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to talk about historians, there's three really good historians. We have Biz Jordan. Biz Jordan's really good at mid school.
Wasn't he?
Before
He
mid
was the
school,
first to do some right. Was it bunny hop? Not bunny hop. Truck.
bunny hop truck
Flat
driver.
truck. Yeah, he was the first for that.
Yeah. Mike Escamilla is very good because Mike Escamilla lived it, and then Dennis McCoy because Dennis McCoy doesn't forget anything.
It's also tough because there was probably so many random dudes in random parks in like the 90s and early 2000s in random places that had done tricks and just like, oh, that's cool. And no one was there. And no one, there's like three people that were there. And it was like, that guy was really good. And then 8 years later, someone thinks they invented something that actually had already been done. Well, you wouldn't
Well, that's
invent it.
like
Yeah.
was that Jose Yares or whatever, that guy that did the double backflip in 1988 or something, but Jay Muron's the first one to do it in 97 or whatever on that live TV.
Hmm.
So you run into these ones where, and then look at what's his name that did the first 360 backflip in 1992 off of that tabletop jump at the Worlds. So it just, the thing that I love about BMX is you have these new kids from that Destruction BMX, where I know the kid's like 20 years old and he's doing the top 100 BMXers. But for me, that's so hard for me is, if you're going to do the top 100 BMXers, you need to know who the top 100 BMXers are, and you're going to base it off of what your knowledge is. That's where the
Yeah, of course.
historian part comes in. So I suck at BMX from 1984 before. I don't know 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at 84 when you get into AFA and Dino DeLuca and you get into all the guys that are from that time, right? But I'm not good before that. And you have a young kid that's doing the top 100. And when you talk to pros and they see like Jason Enns is number 100, what's the point of the whole fucking list? Jason Enns is not 100.
He
See,
was my
this is
first
where
favorite rider.
right. But in your opinion and where you have it, you have to know. You're telling me Jason Enns is 100 and there's 100 riders that are better than him. You're going to put somebody in there that makes no sense. And the riders this kid's putting in there when you go and check it out is based on his age and his knowledge. So
Yeah, but honestly,
this
like that's probably good for BMX content, having those sorts of discussions, having more. Like you think about what
correct, but
talk radio
here's
does
what's
for
bad.
other sports.
Here's what's bad about it. What if because this kid has 300,000 followers, this becomes the staple? Because this kid's opinion, which he doesn't, I know to you, you don't care, but to somebody that fucking loves BMX, I don't like it.
Well, yeah.
Period.
Well,
Because the kid isn't
then you
doing his
need to make
homework.
your own list,
I did make my own list. I just didn't put it out.
and you were wrong
I can
because Joe Rich
I
didn't
can
do the
show this
backward rail.
motherfucker right now. I'm a
Yeah.
gangbanger when it comes to this shit. But I am wrong. But that's because I'm older than that kid that's making it. I love his attempt that he's doing, right? I'm only
Yeah.
saying this
Well, that's what I'm saying.
because
It's
I
good
love his
because it
attempt,
starts the conversation, right? If you want
right?
BMX to grow, if you want you need to have like there's essentially almost no bad conversation. This I actually watch. I'm more involved in like the disc golf world than BMX anymore, and it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like people say stuff and people get mad. And how could you say that? And it's like, well, or at least we're talking about it now, right? If
Correct.
you want to have a larger audience, then you need to have those conversations, and then people will find those conversations entertaining, and then you have more content, and the sport can
Correct.
grow. It's better
Right.
than that
But
person never making that video at all.
right. And then but the hard part that we have in BMX is there's a blurred line where people are like, well, you just can't say that or you can't do this. You can say certain things. You just don't need to do things more direct. So for me, I'm passionate. When I mean fucking
Oh,
passionate
really?
about BMX, I'm more passionate. You give me another passionate person besides Biz Jordan. I haven't met too many passionate people that get angry or upset over just talking about things. But like Biz, if I say something wrong, Biz hits me up. I just said that backwards rail thing. Mike Escamilla called me. We talked for 2-3 hours. Why? Because we're fucking dorks. I'm
Yeah.
only mentioning that this kid has 300,000 followers and these young kids are only following him. They don't understand that there's more to it. I
Who?
wish, hold on, I wish Ride BMX would do things that gave back more to what's now. Yes, you're doing interviews and you're doing things, but you need to do things that teach people too about what the history of BMX is. That's the one thing BMX is missing. We need to go back and talk about who's the first person to do a down whip. Where did they do it? Why did they do it?
Well, it kind of sounds like
Adam
this is
Pack
your calling, dude.
invented the down whip. So you
Maybe
have
this is
all of
what
this.
you do. Maybe you monetize this
No,
idea.
I'm not good at this shit.
It
I'm gonna
doesn't
talk.
matter if you're not good with it. You do it.
I
Like you're sitting here telling me someone needs to do this and this other guy is wrong, and you seem to think there's a demand for this. So do it.
oh there's man. You want to talk about people getting up in
No, no,
arms
no.
right now?
You should just do it. I mean, you said you already have the Y2K BMX group. I mean, start adapting that into what you want it to be. Start like, if you honestly, if I mean, it's just my entrepreneurial spirit. If you think there's a demand for that, then by all means, create that.
Right. Well, with Y2K, I don't do anything that involves myself because I don't want to reap the benefit of the riders that have it. So I always wanted to make a page that was dedicated to the riders that I looked up to, but it wasn't about me. For the longest time, I didn't even tell people. They would email or text it and be like, "Hey, who is this?" And I just send a picture and I go, "Oh my fucking god, you're the dork doing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because they did it. That's the thing that's great. And I want to give back the love for BMX. I want kids to know, like, I got 300 VHS tapes that I have wore out that I'm watching constantly because I care about BMX and I love it so much. The thing that's so hard is, yes, I can't relate to this fact right here. Oh, YouTube, any video I want, I had to wait months to get that video, or I had to travel 70 miles to go get the video, right? And so, BMX it's just different for everybody. And my passion is a lot different. And I feel like when we get into this is the part that hurts for me. Why is it when I say, hey, they need to know this, and then I get the thing back, well, they don't really need to know this? Yeah, because what's the problem with sticking up for me, the old guy, for once? Why do we always got to stick up for the younger kids? When I was younger, the older motherfucker, hey, do this, do that, grind this. We listened. Now we let these little babies and these kids just do whatever they want and they run free. And they're saying at NBD and they're doing tricks on the same fucking spot that Jason Enns or somebody did a long time ago. The Monroe Rail. Do you know how many new videos I've seen where a kid did the same fucking shit Tom White did 30 years ago on that same rail?
Well, with the media
Now,
saturation, it's basically impossible. The whole idea of NVDs
do your homework.
and not reusing songs, that basically ended sometime in the last 5 or so years. Like, it's just not even, there's just so much content. I remember I got accused of song jacking from oh my god, it was something in Austin, Texas. What brands were down there?
Burn slow.
No, this is older. This is probably 2008.
Mutiny.
I don't care. I don't remember what it was, but yeah,
Empire, Mutiny.
maybe it was a mutiny video.
That's way older.
Yeah, either way, someone like accused me of
Creed.
song jacking, and I was like, my video came out like a year and a half before their video. But nowadays, like I said, there's been so much content and it goes by so fast, it almost doesn't even matter anymore.
Okay, so music is different because you can't create the music, so there's less music, okay? So that makes sense. Let's
I
just
mean,
think about it logically.
there's an endless stream of music out there,
I
really.
understand that, but when you're riding, nobody's gonna have some classical music playing unless you're Van Homan with that entices it to make it so, you know what I mean? But I'm saying when it comes to a spot, you have a spot, you have a handrail. If it's a famous spot, do your homework. Go
See,
watch
this
videos.
is such
Ask.
interesting because I don't care at all, and I used to care. I used to be where you were, and like me and Pat Quinn, we would argue about everything. We would watch videos and go back and forth, and it was just
Yes,
like, and then
bring it back. I love
and
it.
it doesn't even matter. It's like I'm not in that niche anymore.
I
So I
know
could just
that you're not,
enjoy
but
BMX for the activity, the enjoyment of riding it. I don't really care.
I know that you don't, right? So this is where you come as being a neutral person running a podcast, and you're dealing with a person that's an addict and addicted to certain things, and I'm very aggressive. I'm trying to protect something that doesn't have a rule, right? So I don't need an Instagram page to do this. Like, oh, I don't want to bring back the ones that brought all the negativity, but I do want something where there's like, hey, the BMX handbook. This has been done on here. Please
So
try something
make it.
different.
You need to make it. You're calling it out. Make it. You're telling me you're extraordinarily passionate. You have 300 videos. You watch them on repeat. Someone needs to do this. You're telling me what you need to. This is your calling, Ricky.
Dude, do you know when
Call
people
Bob
come to,
tomorrow. I quit.
yo, yo, people come to Jersey and will call me and go, "What's been done here?" And then I'll be like, "Well, in 1997, Bob Skirbo did this. George DeSantos did that. Uh, I'm going through the list of what I know from certain spots. And did I live here? No. I came through and did my homework. When I went to the Monroe Rail, I was like, what's been done here? And then they all pointed a rail, and I looked at that big fucking thing, and I was like, I'm going to drop in off that because no one touched it. So, like, for me, I come from a very extreme time where it was, oh, you're going to do a trick? No, the fuck you're not. I'm going to cut you off and snake you and do it before you. Now everyone's like, oh, hey, don't do that. Oh, praise him. No, your style sucks. No handers are not this way. No handers are this way. We don't do this shit. That's not a no hander.
Well, it's
Suicide.
BMX is weird. All the sports are weird like that because it's like one guy could do stuff weird and then that's okay, but if another guy does something weird, it's not okay, and it's that's one of the reasons I'm happy when I got out of it and realized how, in a lot of ways, it was kind of toxic.
Right, but I know I'm being toxic and I'm being extreme, but the problem is we've taken that rabid dog and took the chain off of him, and we allowed it to just go around like this. Yip, 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 yip. Oh, NBD, I did the NBD. Oh, look, I'm the first person to do this. Oh, look, I invented this trick. Woohoo. That's what we've turned into. It's annoying to me, and this is where
I want you
I
to know
turn
I'm
into the
totally clipping that
person.
out.
That's fine. You're gonna clip that out? What does
No, I
that
mean,
mean?
like, I'm gonna make a clip of you running around your
What
apartment.
I'm saying though is, okay, when I say something, I do talk in doubles. So there's a part of it where there's a joke or me being ignorant or being direct, but behind closed doors, not closed, but behind that, I'm saying something to open the mind to a person to be like, hey, look, I don't just talk straightforward with it. There's more to it than just that. So when I'm thinking of it is when a young kid comes in, we need to be there for the young kid. We need to psych the young kid up. We need to embrace him. We need to explain to him, like, hey, during my time, which is probably fucking gay to you, and you don't even use the word gay anymore. So I don't know what you call it now, fingernail polish. But I was like, during our time, this was a no-no, but during your time, this is awesome. So it's a lot of like understanding and learning that. And like when I get around people, I'm always dapping them up, introducing myself, and I don't even if they don't. I was at the casino the other night, and two kids approached me and go, "Oh my God, are you Montana Ricky?" And I said, "Oh, that fag? Yeah, I guess I'm him." And they're like, "I was 15 and I went to a bike show, and you were so nice to me." I was like, "Oh my God, I apologize. I don't remember who you are and stuff like that. Can you explain to me what you were doing?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, dude, I remember you." I was so hyped, and you know what I mean? Just that embracing of one another, and that's That's why I get like so hyper, because I can go from trying to tease kids to all of a sudden getting stoked that it's kids like riding a bike. And I just don't like going to a skate park now and you have backbreakers over here that ride trails and ride the rhythm section, and then you have the street guys at the little tiny ledge that the tires touching. Like, bring those two together. Let's teach the dude with the back brakes to learn how to do a manual on the ledge, and let's teach the kid with 4 pegs to learn how to do a stiff 1 footer, because we just know that
Yeah.
they can't even do a one. Like, let's
I don't
embrace and
think
bring one another
I don't think
together.
that Pandora is going to get back in the box.
It will if I
Someone
came
told
to
me
the
this
scene.
years and years ago. I've been correct about a lot of the trajectory of the bike industry and BMX, but at one point someone did tell me, an older BMX dude, that BMX was going to diverge and park, trails, or street, you were going to have totally different brands, totally different bikes, totally different styles. It was going to be completely like 3 different trajectories. And and for a long time, BMX brands were like, "Oh, this is the street guy. This is our trails guy. This is our contest guy." They tried to do a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
and now it's literally where we're at. Like there are brands that are just like there's like the fast and loose guys, like they have a shtick, but also skateboarding did this already, where it was like it was so saturated, you had to pick kind of an aesthetic, and your brand was that all of your dudes were basically like that.
Well, it just I think that doesn't work nowadays in the model, because let me ask you a question. Out of all of the genres in BMX, who spends the most amount of money?
Like which consumer,
Yeah, which type? So you have
what's
flatland, you have street, you have racing, you have vert, you have skate park. Who spends the most money?
do you mean like per person or
As
total?
a whole, who
As a
spends money?
whole. Well, as a whole, I would imagine it would probably be just street, because that's what most people are riding these days. But
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
think
Who
street.
spends? Who's okay? Which genre spends the most money and has money and is rich? Which genres?
Well, if you're going to ask me what people in BMX spend the most money, it would totally be the like dad riders that are getting back into it now that their kids have gotten older, because those are the guys that I see who are like buying new stuff all the time because they
And
have the
what are they
money,
riding?
and they're buying like, I'm going to try this titanium this and I'm going to try to do that.
What are they riding?
Typically skate
Skateboard.
park. Yeah, typically,
Okay,
yeah.
so you have genres. You break it down. It goes like this: racing spends the most amount of money because you have to yearly. Second is skate parks, because you have people that are willing to buy titanium. Third is going to be flatland. Nobody thinks about it. And then fourth are vert is just connected to street. Or it's its own thing, but
Okay,
nobody
yeah.
really rides vert, right?
And trails is
And
totally
then
last.
we have street, which street riders are least they don't make as much money, and they're not frugal with it. They just spend it, right? So they don't make a lot of money. We should be focusing more on everything as a whole together to get the whole picture together. Instead, we focus on the one that doesn't spend the most money, and then it ends up stifling us, because we're reaching into a formula of tons of people that are coming to one thing, but those people don't have the money to support everything. So why do we put our eggs in one basket? If we went back to putting it all together and we brought racing, street, flatland, everything together, it
Yeah, but the
grows us
bikes
as
are so
one.
different now. It would be so hard to stock all that stuff for all those different disciplines of riding.
Correct, but everyone could do it. Like, Colt does everything but flatland. So Colt makes everything but flatland bikes. So I just we need to support it all as a whole instead of supporting the one thing. And the reason we all support street is it's the easiest. You don't have to own a skate park. You don't have to own a racetrack. You don't have to own trails. I forgot about trails riders. But
Yeah, they
what
spend the
I'm
least.
saying to this is we focus on the one that's the easiest, but that one doesn't have enough to support the ecosystem. And if we go back to business, in order for a business to survive, we have to make money. So we have to figure out a way to make everybody come back together. Now, is this thinking that I'm doing kind of crazy? No, it is. It's something that doesn't get talked about enough. But in order to make BMX grow again, we need to bring all factors back together again and stop the focusing on just one select thing and doing that, because what it does is it isolates everybody and then everybody starts to choose. We don't want we have too many
I don't know if that
choices.
tactic would work in the decentralized BMX space, but
Yeah, well, I mean, all it would take is I ask Robbie to make me a flatland frame and watch what happens.
I try it. Let me know how it works.
But what I'm saying though is I just think you got to think outside the box. We've all been
Yeah,
just doing
yeah,
too much where it's isolated into one area. This is the thing that I like to do. I like to break something down, think from a different perspective, and try to do it. And I'm all about. I hate the fact that I'm going to say the kids and stuff because they're going to bait it and make an Instagram stupid shit, right? But at the end of the day, the younger guys are the future. So we need to do what we can to make it easier for them, but to also make them understand, hey, the one thing you don't understand is X amount cost a person X amount. So instead of you just being good at riding the bike, I need you to talk about the bike or the bike part. I need you to interact more with your audience, with your mouth, and less with your actions. There needs to just be more. And if there's more transparency where you talk to people about it in that sense, it'll educate them and they'll get more excited and want to work together more. And I guess, like, I don't know what it is, but if every single BMXer that is a big name and people look up to him and other owners call me, maybe I am saying something that's correct, or there's something that I have been saying that's on the right track. But I've never changed my pitch. You've known me for over 10 years. I've talked the same way since I did 10 years ago. I've just made it better because I have enough people telling me what they want to see and what they hate and what they don't like. And I try to take that together and I build this big old hamburger ball of negativity and positivity, and I build this new transformer. And I think that's the best way to pivot in BMX is to find everything everyone hates, figure out how to switch from that, pivot, and then transform that hate into a positive. But in order to have that positive come, we have to get past, well, I don't think this works. Well, I don't think that works. Or I don't like this. Or maybe you're off. Okay, why am I off? What can we do to switch that? What do you think about this? Oh, I didn't think about that. Well, I didn't think about that, right? And that's why it's essential for me to FaceTime you, me and you have a conversation, and then we figure out, all right, let's work together. Let's do this. How about this? What do you think of my podcast? Would you want to be on my podcast? Yeah, this is what it's about. It's just having a general conversation, figuring things out, and trying to take a chance. Life is all about chances. And I know I keep coming back to the industry, but that's what I do. Like, it's the
yeah,
blood and lifeline of what I do. And I'm so passionate. And the thing I'm so thankful for is I have guys that own companies and they're allowing me to just be a goofball and do the things that I need to do. And it works.
yeah,
It genuinely works because, dude, you're not the richest person in the world. And when we have a conversation, bro, every single time you buy me a coffee, I don't even drink coffee, but I mean, you make a purchase and it's something that works for you and it's helping the scene and the things are spreading. And mean you have this real circle of healthiness amongst one another. And that's just from having conversations. And with this podcast and me being allowed to talk and do what I want, it's this is 2 years of not being able to talk, and now I'm in front of a camera and we're doing this
yeah.
talk.
You sure are talking
And
though.
oh, this is normal. You
I
after
I
seconds
know you,
tell
dude.
me to shut up. But I my type of love for BMX is disgusting. It just
Yeah.
is. Like, if you could
Well,
get a venereal disease from liking BMX as much as me, did I would have died long time ago from it.
well,
So
a little while ago, you said that BMX. Well, not it was a while ago now, but you said that BMX is strong as ever, and I would
yes.
actually argue it's not. And actually, one of my questions that was actually one of my questions is I was to say that I think these, action sports are at, I would consider almost an all time low. Um, and I mean, do you disagree with that? Do you agree with that
I
statement?
yes, I do in a sense where I come from. So you're taking the state of BMX by what you went through and what you've seen before and what you know is strong. Every time is completely different. So right now, I have more buyers I have more people and I have more educated people that have rode BMX before. So therefore, I'm bigger than I was before. The only problem is it isn't sensationalized like it was before. There's no big outlets. There's no video games of it. There's no big contests. There's no like local contests and things that you have here, right? And also what saturates it so much, which is a negative for you, is outdoor free public skate parks and pump tracks. There wouldn't be
I
building
don't
that
see that as a
stuff.
problem. But I mean, how could you, I mean, it seems like every brand I talk to is struggling right now, and you're saying you have more people than ever.
Yeah,
How
but
do you
the
circle that
reason,
square?
how do I circle that square? You need to look at those people that are saying why they're struggling and ask them, why are you struggling? What are you doing? Are you doing the same thing? Are you pivoting? Are you looking at things in a different light? Or are you just doing the same thing and coming to work and going, oh, woe is me. I'm doing the same thing. No. What are you doing? Dude, you changed your whole aspect. You're doing all kinds of outside activities. You're doing the trike bike things. You're doing, I just saw a TV show, the commercial of you. Dude, you're doing all kinds of things that you didn't do 2 years ago that you're
Because I
doing
have to.
now. I understand that. But guess what? That extra work and everything you do is going to pay off.
Well, yeah, I
So
understand
the
that.
problem when you have people that say we're in a certain situation, they're not changing. They're
Yeah,
saying they
but
are.
that's not really the question though. The question is like, are we at a low? And based on what I hear from the scooter industry, the skateboard industry, the bike industry, from what I'm seeing with my own eyes, is that like, despite there being more outdoor parks, it seems like less and less kids are getting into these sports. I mean, definitely like where I am, that's the reason the skate park is struggling because the drop off in kids getting into the sport is dramatic. And you could say
Uh,
the common thing is people say, "Oh, it's the outdoor parks," but if the outdoor parks are creating new customers, and up here in Rochester, it's been below freezing for like a month straight. It's been in the teens temperatures. There's been snow on the ground, and if those people really were riding, like they would be finding me and coming to me, and especially because I'm advertising in their area to where
correct. And
I
you're
used to
looking
not
at
have to
where you are.
advertise, and I used to have a ton of people coming in. So like what I'm
Okay.
seeing at my shop is the same thing I'm hearing from every other skate park or shop or company I talk to.
All right. So let's do this. When you have people that live in your local scene and they've been somewhere every single time, even though they ride bikes, do they come to you?
Say that again?
So you have local people that have been there before, right?
Yes.
And it's just cold outside. So most of them are, I was about to say the P word. Most of them just don't do shit. So they're just not going to go outside. And so since it's convenient to go to you because it's warm, some of those riders just won't go out there. You're just never going to know that they're there. But I can tell you by opening new shops and getting new people, so here's the problem that we have. You're taking riding based on the skill of riding. I'm looking at it as a whole. So if I sell to a kid that's never bunny hopped, that's a rider. That's still a person that bought our product that's trying to ride, but we don't know where that career is going to go, right? So I'm selling more to not just the guy that rides and goes to the skate park and does that. I'm also selling, let's say I sell to your area and they sell to a kid that's 7 years old. We don't know if that kid's going to keep continuing riding and stuff. But if I'm seeing the sales increase and they're buying more, I know that BMX is growing there because the way that I sell is I don't dump. I don't just
Yeah.
find one person that's going to buy a shitload. I only sell 2 or 3 bikes at a time. So the way that I measure it is by how many containers am I getting, how many I selling, and then what new shops am I getting at the end of the year and what I'm seeing from it, right? We always base everything off of, oh, okay, well, this kid and I know this writing. You're not basing it off of how many of these, let's say I have 100 bikes. Out of those 100 bikes, let's say in your area, out of those 100 bikes, I sell, let's make the number easier. I sell 10 bikes in your area to one shop, right? Out of those 10, how many do you think are going to come to the skate park and ride with those 10 bikes?
Maybe one.
Okay, so where do those 9 go?
Someone's
That's
garage.
what I'm saying. Right, that's the thing, right? But that's BMX growing. I still sold that and I have that. It's how do we keep these kids to continue riding? That's the hard disconnect that we have. So how do I get
So
them to the
do you
next
just
level?
like not want to admit that things aren't as good as they were? Because like there's no everyone like even what they tell me at Kink, the amount of bikes they're ordering now, they've digressed so far.
I think my honest opinion is
And it's
I
not
look
about
at the
Kink specifically; it's just companies in general.
no,
There's so
no,
many
no, no,
companies
no.
have
I don't
closed
mean
and gone out of
specific
business, and
companies or anything like that. I look at BMX completely different based on numbers of what I'm doing and what I'm bringing in. So even though if I'm a smaller brand or now I'm working with Colt and I'm able to do bigger things, I'm seeing positive. I'm seeing more growth. I'm selling so many frames, it's ridiculous. I'm selling more frames than I can sell bikes. So kids don't just not buy bike, and bike shops don't stock frames. When they buy a frame, that frame is going to someone. I've been doing sales for 11 years. I've never sold frames like this, like I have lately. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Wheels, I'm not selling wheels like I used to, but kids are buying frames. So that
what
means for me, that's a growth.
what frames were you selling in the past though? When you were at Merit, did they have frames?
No, I've been with Fiend for a bit, and then I would help out Robbie. And then I take other people that were selling frames, and they weren't selling as much. So, like, basing it off the 2 years of something with being Fiend, this year I'm selling so many frames, it's ridiculous. And it's the same frames that we had the year before. So there's a growth somewhere there, right? And then you're
Mm,
asking me, Ricky, are you just being a politician and not want to admitting something, right? And I'm going to be
yeah,
very honest with you. I don't look at it the way others look at it. So for me, I'm willing to put in harder work. If it's getting slower, that means I just work harder.
well,
And
yeah,
I know,
but I mean, you even
uh,
said like that you don't see things like the X Games, you don't see stuff like BMX on TV, I think that's
right,
one of the key points is like if you go back to like the early 2000s, late 90s, action sports were huge. You know, like at one point, like I think it was Gravity Games shut down Love Park right in Center City, Philly, and did like a contest there. You would never
correct.
see that now. Like you're not seeing it in commercials. It's just like it's. And I understand these sports always go in these kind of waves of transparency being cool, then not cool.
Right.
But it seems like right now we're just in like a perfect storm of economy, post COVID mismanagement, and they're just like out of favor, and possibly the proliferation of the phone based childhood where less kids are just doing this sort of
Well,
stuff.
we're dealing with how you said consumer based thing when you were talking about selling direct. Well, these riders ride direct. If it's not virtual, then they're not going to ride physically. So for me, my job is to sell stuff, and I'm seeing sales go up. I'm not seeing down. Now I can go into the whole bitching and figure out things, but I'm telling you, the growth of what I'm seeing is a positive because I'm working with people that are willing to change
Yeah.
the way that we need to change.
Well, I mean, the
The
best thing
the
I can
problem,
extract from that is that we're coming out of this, which would be great news.
yes. I think what's happening is you get a lot. You got to remember how old are everybody that own bike companies?
Old.
Uh, they're 52, 53, 54 years old, right?
Old. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, you bring in guys that at my time were 30 something. Now I'm 40 something. I have this pip and vinegar, whatever the thing is, and I'm super hyper and I'm working things that are different. The people that I'm working with are willing to open their eyes and be like, look, I don't see what you see, but your
Mm.
feet are planted on the ground. So we're taking chances and doing things that are different. You remember we did a live and we allowed bike shops to come on and just talk and
Yeah.
listen to the owner say something. We're trying to do things that are completely different. So when you hear from other companies, I can't speak for those guys, but I can tell you from my perspective, it's getting bigger, it's getting better, and we're trying to educate the people that are part of it. The education comes
Yeah. Well,
all of
obviously, that's
us.
really important.
Yeah, and it can't just be, well, the owner spends the money, the sales rep sells it, and then these kids ride their bikes, blah blah blah, right? No, we all got to sell it. We all got to buy it. We all got to do this. That's the ecosystem where
Yeah.
I'm working that's creating, and
Well,
it
just
feels
like you
good.
you said you look at it differently, I'm looking at it totally differently because I when someone comes in my doors, I don't even really like I acknowledge what they're riding and I collect that data, but I'm just looking at is this a core rider, not a core rider? Core rider. Is this a first
Correct.
timer? Is this a beginner? Is this an intermediate rider? And the trends I'm seeing is post COVID a dramatic drop off in young kids getting into the sport, regardless of which sport. And the biggest one has obviously been the drop off in scootering, just because that's what most little kids did because it offers the fastest learning curve. But major
Correct.
drop off. The other thing I see is a lot of people that come here, and despite being people that come to the skate park regularly, they are not engorged, entrenched, indoctrinated into BMX or skate culture. A lot of people come and ride, and they are not wearing riding apparel. They don't really care about the politics or this or that, and they just ride. They a lot of it's crazy. I don't get it because I'm not from that generation, but they'll buy a complete bike. They don't seemingly don't have much brand loyalty. I like that color. I'll buy that. It's like super, just a different beast, And the core people are obviously going to age out if the new people aren't engaging in the core aspect of it. But that's
Yeah,
only a
but you're
minority.
also
The main thing is the little kids not getting into these sports.
well, we do have the kids into the sport. You're just not seeing it. And you're not bringing up the other element that you don't see, which is bike life. Bike life is
That's not a
bigger than.
that's not really a thing up here.
No, I understand that, but that is bigger than skateboarding. All of it together. It's the biggest thing that's going on because the element of entry is easier than scootering. All you have to do is pedal. And the good thing
Yeah,
about bike life is everybody in BMX makes that stuff already. You just have to support it. I've already went
yeah.
down
You're
that route.
talking
I
about like the,
know,
the wheelie bike stuff, right?
yeah, but
Okay,
it's bike life.
that's what
being
they call it,
respectful.
bike life.
It'd be like if you called fruit booters blade. You know what I mean?
All right. Well,
So
I mean, the minority of people that do it up here, it's a, it's not a thing up here really.
I know, but
I
there's
understand
the
it's a big thing, but up here it's not.
correct. But where a lot of that growth comes in is those guys do buy stuff. They buy my pedals, they buy my cranks, they buy my sprockets, they buy my bottom brackets, they buy my headsets because it all fits that stuff. And that has also geared into helping. Also, with me having the knowledge of how to sell things, I can sell rim strips and other things to mountain biking and road biking that'll fit and interlock. So is BMX down in a way that we look at it like, okay, is this person really good or is that person? It could be, but there's elements of the industry that aren't looked at. And that's how many of the mom and pop stores, not the people that understand what BMX are, or that are supporting it and then selling it to the kids, like you just said, that don't have brand recognition. That's happening. Like, dude, I got shops in North Dakota, Wyoming, South Dakota, and you when's the last time you heard like, oh, that badass rider from Wyoming? Dude, there's some badass riders in Idaho and Wyoming and Montana and North Dakota and South Dakota. They're just in their own world. And that's the thing is we can only look where we come from and what we see on Instagram. But a majority of these new kids, they don't Instagram. They're like Facebookers or TikTokers and stuff like that. So like even Instagram's becoming the older thing where these kids are doing other stuff. So I just think
That's interesting.
clumping it into looking at it as, well, this guy says this yeah, but it's also because you have sales reps that do certain things their way. I'm evolving. I'm doing crazy fucking shit as a sales rep. I'm going steps over and beyond. Like I told you that I want to work with you and I want to do something local, but I'm not local. But I want to be the local guy because I know if I can help you, you can help the scene helps you, you help me. At the end of the day, we need to start talking about money. Money is important. Without money, there's no bike company. Without
Yeah,
money, there's no bike. So, what is wrong with talking about money? And that's the issue that we have is everyone like tries to, you know what I mean? And BMX turns into this skill thing. fuck the skill. I don't care about the skill. I just care about a kid riding a bike, enjoying himself, and having a great time. Like, and as a sales rep, my goal is to make the shop owner as educated as possible in BMX as a whole. So if you're going to carry my stuff, I want you to be able to be like, you know what? I'm comfortable with carrying this. I know what my limits are on buying it, and I'm going to sell this like I'm you, Ricky. And we're going to work together and we're going to make things better. And I know I sound like a broken record, but you've talked to me forever. You've had me when I was in my most negative times, and I still fight through those negativities. So for me,
Yeah.
BMX is slaughtering it. It's doing great, but it's doing it in ways where you're focused here. I'm here. This is why my growth is going to be better than everybody else's growth, because I'm out
I mean,
here,
I
baby.
would argue
Where-
that my view is much larger than everyone else's because you're not even like most of the stuff people in the BMX industry are trying to do are like one step out the door or just crack the door open. Like I could care less really at the end of the day what the kids are riding. I just want them to ride. And
Yes,
if a new thing came out tomorrow that kids could ride, by all means, I'd have them here because I mean they're better off here than not here. That's the way I look at
correct.
it.
And I think when we have conversations, you should be working with people that are willing to ask you questions to stimulate your mind to think different.
Yeah,
Like
like when
when
we were
we
on
talk,
when I was on that live stream with you, like I said, these brands spend all of their marketing money, whatever that is, fighting over the kids who are already riding. And then it's considered like cool and like creative when you step out the door and you're like, oh, we're going to reach out to wheelie bike kids or bike life. Or we're going to reach out to scooter kids. Like, it's like, yeah, you're not even, you're barely looking outside your bubble and you're already trying to pat yourself on the back for doing something that's like unique and cool versus truly trying to reach kids who already aren't riding, which is
yeah.
the big
So
untapped market, getting in front of
so
those people.
so schools are the most important thing, because
Yes.
you have impressionable kids that are hyped on things, right? So
Forever, bike companies have been way too cool to do those things, to go to schools,
well,
to do box jump things. It's been below them. Brands have tried to be these like cool lifestyle brands, kind of trying to be edgy, and that worked great when BMX was making money. And now that it's not, like if you don't evolve or adapt like you said you're doing, you're going to close like a lot of these other companies are closing.
correct, and it's not their fault. It's just you get stuck in a rut and you do the same thing over and over. We have a guy that's really good friends with Bob. His name's Brett Clark, and he used to do with DK doing all the shows. Now he has his own show and stuff. And if he needs things, we try to help out. I mean, I am working with whatever brand wants to work with me, because I believe the more we work together, the better we're going to do. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Robbie Tyler over at Eastern.
Yeah,
I feel like
gave him my
Eastern made a
number. He won't
mistake.
stop texting me.
Hey,
I'm
sorry.
kidding. I'm
But
kidding.
uh, I believe, yes, somebody made a mistake back in the day. Times have changed. That guy, anytime that I need help or work with a contest or a jam, Eastern has always been there.
Yeah, he
So
reached out
are
to
we?
me and he wanted to help me, and it wasn't just typical sales rep crap. Like he actually did a little research and looked at my stuff and saw what I was
Yes.
doing, and he offered to send me a balance bike for my Tykes on Bikes thing, and like he's been reaching out to me and just trying to talk to me about life, and he's got kids and I got a kid and whatever, which I
Yeah.
definitely appreciate that. It looks like the stuff he's selling, like the good prices on stuff, which definitely
Yeah.
helps.
And I think where we get is you get this narrative where people are like, this is cool, this isn't cool, or whatever not. I look at things different. I look at it like, even if I can't get along with you or I don't like your views, but you're doing a business that I can see working with, I want to do that. In order to make BMX better, we need to stop taking the jump rope and just hitting our ankles with the jump rope. Let's start jumping and getting that fucking thing going, and then get
Yeah.
into some Dutch and add some more people.
Well, even on that
BMX,
live stream we talked about again, like they're like, oh, maybe we need to do more bike shop tours. And I'm like,
yes,
that's the same thing. You're just cracking your head out the door and looking. The bike shop tours are just like a little bit better than what we're already doing because you might reach the 30 kids that ride in that immediate area. If you want to do bike shop tours, then you need to equip the bike shops with marketing materials and some sort of template for how to reach out to local schools or recreational organizations to get new people to come to the shop and check out, look at these pro riders. And then those pro riders have to be willing to, ride something that's cool enough. And it doesn't even, they don't even have to be amazingly good at riding to impress little kids. But
Yeah.
that's, if you have to, the companies have to work with the shops or whoever to get those fresh eyes on the sport if you expect to, generate new bike riders.
Correct. Now, all we're doing there is with something that makes sense to look. I would like to do things that are very unorthodox and very different. I would like to do kids that are in college. Hey, we have some bikes that we would like to donate. If you guys need bikes to go from here to go to school, people that are at hospitals and they work close to home, I would like to work with hospitals and give them bikes. I know it's just BMX bikes, but I like to think in ways that are a little bit different
I
in
think the
helping
move
and
would
giving.
be inner city rec centers. The
Yeah,
not
I mean,
I'm on the board locally, the Friends of the Rock City Skate Park that got our downtown park built. And now that the
yeah,
park is built, we're still liaisoning for the second phase and some stuff pertaining to that. But we're also working with programming, and we work through the city of Rochester. They call the R centers, and when we've developed this like little kind of mobile skate park. It's like 3 or 4 little ramps, and they set up. I think it's like once or twice a month at these particular rec centers, and it's just skateboarding because it's obviously a lot easier to show up with a dozen
and
skateboards and
cheaper.
some helmets. But the way you're saying that bike life culture is proliferating quite well. I mean, if you could get into inner city programs, reach out to these cities and be like, hey, look, we would like to work on a program with you. We're willing to give you, 6 bikes if we can, work with someone who will, facilitate, or even here's a template for a program we've done. I mean, that could
Well,
really
here's the
affect the
thing.
culture
So
of the
let's
sport.
say what you're not looking at is what the cost the owner to do that. So you're looking at like how can I give something if I don't make a return right away? That's the problem.
Yeah.
We got to look at it another way. Are
No,
you
but
rich?
if you
Not,
the brands have to be willing to spend money
they
for
are
like
spending money, but what you don't understand, see, here's the thing where we get into this iffy thing. The owners are spending fuckloads of money and doing things, and the return of investment has to be placed in certain situations for them to at least afford a living. We always look at it like, oh, well, there's X amount and they must be making millions. We got to figure out a way that streamlines money. We can't just be like, well,
well,
I'm
I'd
not
say that
taking away your
I'd say they're
idea.
just scared to jump off the cliff and try something outside the box. Like I
They've
do
already,
tons of things for my business that use a lot of my time and resources and make me no money when I do them in the hopes
I,
that I'm generating new customers down the road. And like
correct.
it's
So,
harder when that ROI becomes abstracted and you won't have a way of we're so used to tracking the lost carts and all these sales things. It's harder when it's an abstract thing like that. It's hard to know. And also, if you're trying to generate a new person to ride BMX that doesn't already ride, it's not guaranteed that they're necessarily going to stick with your brand if they stick with it. But still, like
correct.
the brands have
So,
to, multiple
at the
brands
end
need
of
to
the
be
day, you
invested
have
in
to make
this.
money, right? So I have to look at a way that makes us money. So let's just stop. Let's just start at the most important thing, making money. What you're saying is important. I love all of that. But how can I do what you want, what I believe is the right way? I want to do things that are, there's so many things that I want to do, but it takes, how can we take a little bit of money and streamline it this way so we get a return? Everything that I try to do doesn't make us money, and I just want a return. I do a lot of that, right? But there's a limited amount of money. So the problem that we need an outside source that comes in, and instead of having this outsourced source give it to riders, which we always do. Oh, well, we got this new thing from the circus. Let's just give it to riders. No, 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 no. How about we do it brands, but the brand doesn't just per se make the money. We take that money and we take it and we figure out where we could put it in certain areas to make certain cities or states better, by working programs that you have, but we need some type of outlet. What we always do is we get new, fresh money, we give it to X amount of people that usually are the same ones that get it all the time. And then they just take this program and it implodes on itself because it's not spreading enough. And those riders always feel like, well, they look at it from a rider's point of view. I get it. You're important. You're great. That's why we have a company. But at the end of the day, if we don't make money, we can't have a rider. So we need to understand, we need to look at all lenses, not just the lens from a rider's point of view, not the lens from the IB. Well, the IBD is more important than anything, but the owner needs a lens, and we need to look at his too,
Yeah, but there's also
because
a ton of opportunities in grants, especially in inner cities and especially for anything related to health and sports. It probably would be really smart to, hire a consulting
that's
company
actually,
that was that
I'll be very honest with you. That's actually, I didn't even think of it in that way, I guess, because
because
I think what ends up
you were
happening.
presuming I was just saying give the bikes away. It wouldn't be give
No,
the
no, no,
bikes
no,
away. It
no.
would be
I don't mean that. What I'm
you okay.
saying,
Let me give you an example. The
yeah,
the guy who helped me start my business, Jaden Much's father, he owns a
yeah,
consulting company. He's like a business genius. He's incredible. A lot of the way I think and process information was from what he taught me. One of the things his company does, and he's done a lot of work actually with Kink, is he comes in, they try to streamline the business for efficiency, but he also uses the initial money they pay for his consulting to look into grants to find further opportunities to continue consulting with that company. So it would be really wise for these bike companies to look into consulting particular to grants. And if you find the right person who's looking for the right grants, you can really do a lot. The problem there becomes there would have to be some nonprofit. Typically, there'd be some nonprofit between the city and the nonprofit would do the fiduciary responsibility between them and the bike company because
right.
you couldn't make your own nonprofit just to sell your bike, so that would be a conflict of interest. But there is I look into grants. People send me grants all the time, and there's tons of stuff for the city and health and kids, but it's always for nonprofits, and I'm not a nonprofit, at least not right
Right.
now.
Well, I like where you're thinking, and I guess I'm blinded on the fact that I need to make money. So I do a lot of extra stuff for future things, but I never think about future free money, which is from that.
You
So
also
that's
have to
great
understand
to
like
look
the money
into.
that towns, municipalities mess with is like an order of magnitude bigger than not for like bike companies, but normal people. Like
Yeah, yeah,
again, to use
and
context from the disc
gotcha.
golf world, for if a town wants to put in a disc golf course, right? 18 disc or 19 disc golf baskets is like 25 grand. And for a town, 25 grand is basically nothing. So like if you were looking at a program and you were writing a grant for like 8 bikes, 5 bikes, it really is not a lot of money to them. It's really a matter of finding someone who's willing to do it.
Correct. Well, that's something great. See, and I think that's the outside help that we need. We're always looking at things that have kind of been touched, and then how do we go a little bit out of that incorporates bikes, right? So at the end of the day, we're always thinking about, all right, bikes. How do we do this? What goes with bikes? And so everything that you said there opens up a whole new window for me, because at the end of the day, what I would like to do is help out reservations. I would like to start a charity program where I go to reservations and give bikes to kids, and show them how I got out in this world, and they
The
don't have to be stuck in their situation.
the
That's like a
Seneca reservation, which is like out toward Buffalo from here, they actually just posted out they're building a skate park. They got a grant. All the skate parks, almost all the skate parks that are being built in Western New York right now are all through the Ralph Wilson Foundation and the Skate Park Project, formerly the Tony Hawk Foundation. They like
yeah.
partnered together to build parks out here, and it looks like the Seneca Nation is building one as well. All I
Can you
saw
see
is
me?
they posted like a logo and hey, we're going to do this thing. There's no renderings or anything. And there was people that came to my skate park years ago, and they were from that reservation, and they brought their kids to ride, and they told me trying to do it and exploring options. So I imagine it's probably the same people who are doing that.
So Montana right now has 6 skate parks that are bigger than most people's regular skate park. Like Montana builds the biggest skate parks because we have so
Yeah.
much land, right? Um, I'm not. I just want kids to not drink, smoke, party, get bored, go to jail, or have a kid when they haven't thought about
Yeah.
why you're having a kid, right? So I want them to take their frustration out and everything and have an adventure from a bicycle. So, that's something I've been thinking about was giving back to my people. And I want to do something like that. Like not the skate park thing, nothing like that. Like just a program where I go to
Yeah.
school, I tell kids like, hey, look, I'm a white native. And I've always had a thing with acceptance. I've always, wanted to be accepted, but based on the way I look is completely different. But I want you guys to know that there's a world that's outside there other than being stuck on the res, even though it's 400 miles in most of the reservations to the next town. I just want to do something for my people to give back,
Yeah.
right? And that's like a goal that I'm working on. Like with starting my brand, which I started 2 years ago, but now I just did it, so obnoxious. I want to start a charity
That's a
page, and
fitting
I just
name.
want yeah, well, obviously. But I wanted to do something where later on I could give back, and giving
Yeah.
back would be the minute mute voice, which is Native Americans. They're not too much. You don't hear or
Someone
see
in
too
the
much.
chat just said Wild West BMX Jam is giving back to the reservation in New Mexico. Are you familiar
Yes,
with
and
this?
that is yes, that's Dimitri James. I already sent him a package. I had Eastern send him one.
Cool.
Very great kid. I got him his first sponsor, brought him up to Montana, and he shut shit down.
That's awesome.
Um,
All right, but before
that's
before you go off on another tangent,
oh,
we're
sorry.
already 2 hours and 20 minutes in here, and I gotta go to bed soon. So
Okay.
I want to go and do it. Just my rapid fire questions at the end. I got a list, and I want you to try your best to just give me a quick answer. And these are kind of set up to be like, just give it to me straight. You ready?
Yep.
What was your first real bike? Like BMX bike?
Hutch, 1992 Hutch Pro Raider, and then the next one was a 1993 dirt bike S&M 1-inch head tube.
What was your favorite bike of all the bikes you've had?
This is sound corny. My signature frame I had with Freed.
That's not corny. That's awesome. Who is your favorite rider of all time?
Mark the Gons Gonzalez.
Who's your favorite current active rider? Sponsored, active, doing their thing at somewhat close to the peak of their career.
I like uh this kid's gonna kill me. I can't even think of his name right now. Hold on. I know his Instagram. So hold on.
Is he like a well-known kid, or is this like kind of a snake in
This
the
is a
grass?
no, this is a European kid. Kids
Oh,
probably
okay.
know, but this kid just this kid is what BMX is about to me, where you get someone on a bike and they just flow, and he goes to the moon, and I just love the way he rides. Hold on, I get it.
So
Now
he's
it's
more
gonna
like a
be
park, flowy, jumpy kind of guy.
yeah, it's complete it's exactly like the package that I love from riding. Hold on. It's is this him? Give me another question while I look for this
Okay.
kid. But
Is BMX better off following in the footsteps of skateboarding or
no,
trudging our own?
fuck
No.
skateboarding.
Okay, cool. Um, if you could get one session at any skate park ever, what would it be?
Chenga one
Chenga
rhythm
one.
section. I
And
just
you've been
wanted to ride
and
that so
you've
bad.
been there?
No, every time I was supposed to go, I just like I always said hell with the East Coast. I only want to go to the West Coast. So I'd always deny any time coming to the East.
Okay. Okay. What's a BMX brand right now that's doing it right? Probably the brands that you work for, you're going to say.
Um,
Oh,
uh, I feel like Chris Riesenberger is doing a lot of things that I really do like over at Merritt and Rixon. Um, uh, and most people would think that's very strange since I got fired from there, but I want to give kudos to those people.
okay.
And I'm the type of person that's a little bit different. Like just because I had something that was a matrix situation, I still love it. I'm from there. I'm Merit till the day I die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But obviously, Colt and everyone I work with, Colt 80s, Daily Grind, Deco, and Fiend. I feel like
So
all the brands I work with.
if they're doing it right, are there any brands you'd care to say that are doing it wrong? You can pass on
That's what
that.
got me canceled, so I pass.
Okay. What's your Starbucks order?
A Trenta strawberry acai with lemonade.
Okay. Hot dog or burger?
Bison burger.
Bison burger. Love it. Is Trump's presidency going to be good or bad for BMX?
So I guess I'll be the only one that speaks on this. I think the tariff from May 16th
Uh-oh.
or whatever happened of last year. You still there?
Yeah. I think my camera might have died, but I'm still here.
Okay, so we had the tariff that happened, and Biden brought in that tariff, which added a big percentage to what we paid for tariffs.
Okay.
Biden hasn't been, or not Biden, sorry. Trump hasn't been here long enough, but if Trump does do the against the tariffs like he said he has, then I will be extremely happy. I can't, like right now with the way the prices are, it's just super tough. But I have to wait to see what he says. But I'm not
Okay.
against anything until I see it. You know what I mean? God
All
damn,
right.
do you post this
Last
thing?
question here.
Okay.
What was the worst trend in BMX history?
Free coasters.
Free coasters. Why
Free
is that?
coasters, the wackest shit ever. Because people are lazy as fuck. Learn how to ride a bike. Oh, second is plastic pegs. I think plastic pegs ruin BMX.
Why is that?
Because it just
The
makes
same
everything
way,
easy.
couldn't you argue the same thing about steeper head tube angles, shorter rear ends? All that makes everything a
Yeah,
lot
because
easier as well.
all that stuff takes away. A free coaster makes it easy to 180 to backlash. You can do a 90 and still land this stuff. This is obviously me just being core as shit
Yeah,
in
I
my
mean,
own core
I would
way.
argue that the short rear ends and steep head tubes are really similar in that regard, where it just made things so much easier.
Yeah, and obviously this is where arguments, but you already know when I say this stuff, I say it on my Instagram all the time.
Yeah,
I'm just not a plastic. If you can't hear it, it doesn't count.
yeah.
Like learn how to grind faster. That's just the way I am. But I come from a different time. Nothing against the people that run plastic. I mean, other than the fact go faster and you could do the trick, but who knows?
Fair.
Don't worry, it gets me in trouble. That'll be the thing where I get yelled at. Fuck, I can't find this kid. I'm trying to find this kid, bro.
Yeah,
Is
how's that working for you?
I'm
Well,
gonna find him because
you could
there
send
you
me the
are. You're almost
message later. Yeah, I just switched to my my onboard webcam
it's
here.
almost there. 1 second. 1 second. Don't we? I have to give this kid his shine because this kid deserves it. So don't.
All right.
I
Well,
feel
you
bad.
find it. I mean, you can't really be that good of a rider if you, you don't
No,
know his
he's.
name.
Fuck, it has
All
nothing.
right. Anyway, you find it. Thanks for everyone who watched it, who listened to this, made it this far in 2.5 hours. This is my longest podcast to date. It's nearly 1 a.m. I am a little tired.
Oh, is that why you're trying to hang up on me? And I'm trying to find this, and now it's
No.
bugging.
If you guys like what we're doing here on the podcast, you can subscribe on our Patreon. $5 is your basic subscription. I'm trying to raise my Patreon to the goal is $5,000 a month. It's super hard to keep a skate park open. If I can generate enough, $5 donations a month to help pay the rent, then I can keep the skate park open. There are very few skate parks of this scale and magnitude left. And for all the people who might listen to this that don't ride anymore or appreciate the grind, that $5 a month goes a really, really long way. And if I ever close, I will end that subscription and not keep taking your money. I also do periodically send out stuff to our subscription subscribers. Today, I mailed out a bunch of BFS little fridge magnets and sticker packs to everyone whose address I was given. And I posted, hey, I'm sending these out. If you didn't give me your address, give me your address, and I will send those out. And in a beautiful, serendipitous skate park kind of way, one of my customers, she is a mail carrier, and she saw me putting the stamps on there. We got actually skateboard stamps, and she's like, oh, I could take those and bring them into work tomorrow. Fantastic. So all you people out there who subscribe and listen, you're going to get your magnets and stickers in the mail. As I said in the beginning, March 8th, Wrench Fest, doing this all-day festival at the skate park. There's going to be Trails Jam for bikes, Spine Mini Jam for scooters, Eddie's Rail Challenge for bikes. There's going to be free pancakes in the morning, bagels from Fox's. We're going to have DJs. Might even have some music. Going to have vendors. Should be this big all-day long thing. Possibly even karaoke. We're just doing everything.
Dude, karaoke, that's a good idea.
Well, the whole thing came from, in the past, I always did a BFS holiday party. The holiday party was, just the people who helped build the skate park and all the volunteers and whatnot. And we always did karaoke. And it's harder to do that party. This doesn't work with the schedule as well. And so many people have gotten older and aren't coming around. So sometimes I would do, in March, I do a little birthday party, private birthday party at the skate park, and karaoke has always been part of it. So I want to bring it back and have the karaoke, but that's probably after the skate park is closed for a VIP only kind of deal.
We found him.
You found the guy's name.
His name is Tom Russell.
Okay.
This damn kid is a gangbanger.
Tom Russell.
Look at that.
Oh,
that's
is that
a
Switch 3?
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Look at that. That's a turn down, kids.
Yeah, it's definitely a turn down.
That's what you should do. Ride your bike, jump it, do everything. Dude, look at that snap.
Okay.
But,
say it again. What's his name? Tom what?
Tom Russell. And then his
Instagram
is Tom Russell BMX.
At Tom Russell BMX. Okay.
I sold the kid's frames. I like the way the kid rides. There's something about him that reminds me of Christopher with a mix of Chase Hawk.
He moved to your right. There you go.
Yeah, but anyway, I like the kid, and I had a brain fart, and I hate doing that. But like for new riders, I really, 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 really enjoy that kid. That kid just, because I can't ride that way. So I think when I watch riders, if I can guess your trick or know the trick you're gonna do when it comes to street, nothing against you, but it's like I'm trying to get stimulated. So do something that's gonna trick me with your trick, right? But if I'm watching skate park, I want something that makes me want to ride that way, not watching the slimmity slamity cash roll, cash roll, cash roll, cash roll, cash roll, cash roll. Nobody cares. We don't want that. We want, when you played the Matt Hoffman game, did you try to ride it? Did you try to play it like how you would ride? Or did you just push every button and try to do a 3,000 bazillion combo? No, you tried to ride it like how you would ride. Oh, I did an ice pick, drop down, feeble, Smith, and then come over, and then I'll do a long toothpick, tail whip. Even though there were some tricks you couldn't do, that's how I like my bike riding with skate parks. You know what I mean? You know what? Go to bed. You deserved it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. You definitely, you're a talker for sure, and I knew that going into this.
Did I ruin it for you? I hope.
No.
I just hope. With my closing statement, I just hope people know that when I say things that seem aggressive, or I say things that seem a little unorthodox, or I'm saying this sucks or doing that, my opinion, it doesn't, just because you ride plastic pegs doesn't make you worse than or whatever. It's just, I have an old man to me. I should be allowed to say my own opinion. And with the Free Coaster, I tell Bruce Chrisman every time, I'm like, dude, be a fucking man. Get back on a cassette. Stop
I,
being a bitch.
he ruined it,
So
or was it Carl
yeah, no,
Pointer?
Ian Schwartz.
No,
When I
but Ian,
first saw
I
him
don't.
ride,
Okay, I don't. We're not gonna go. I'm not gonna go down a whole nother
yo,
wormhole. We're
don't
done.
go to bed,
We're
bro.
done.
All right,
We're
I'm
done.
hanging up.
Um,
We're done. Go to bed.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. We there's definitely a lot of little tangents we had there we can go on. I do want to come back and have a conversation about the decentralization of BMX and action sports in general. But thank you for everything
So,
you do for
are
me.
you going to edit any of this, or are you just putting it out as it is?
No, these just go out completely live. I basically export the audio tomorrow, upload it to the podcast feed, and that's it. I'll add
All right.
captions and a thumbnail tomorrow, and that's it. So
Well, we'll see what the BMX world thinks. Maybe I'm
yeah, if they
grounded.
listen, if they don't listen, I don't know. We'll see. I just know when
All right,
these longer podcasts, it's hard to edit out clips because there's just so much to chew through. But also, 1 hour is really not enough. You barely get into anything. So there's a happy medium. But like you just talk, other people, it's kind of you have to kind of really kind of massage to get the stuff out. You just like go. It's almost like to wrangle you in to keep you on like one thing. And maybe next time we run a timer. I get you got 2 minutes. Answer this question. You're like 2 minutes. That's not enough. Anyway, thank you for everyone who watched this. Ricky, thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you've done for BMX, all the brands you've worked for, and the stuff you've always helped support me here. And I got some bikes coming in the mail tomorrow, one of which is already sold. The Colt bikes are cool. People
I
generally
do have.
want them because they're aluminum and like whether 28 spoke wheels or whatever. They're much lighter, although they're a little more money than like the Kinks. The weight really makes a difference for the little kid riders. So, and to have that rack, I got boxed out from getting Kink kids bikes this year because just the way they operate, I didn't order quick enough. So whatever. Have people come in the skate park now. Those little kids come in, and I got the Colt. I got the 12, or did I get a 12?
12,
14, 14, 16.
16.
Yeah, I got the whole gamut of them lined up right there. So
Well, we are. I talked to Robbie before we hang up. We'll hang up on this note. We are gonna. We got some ideas how we're gonna work with you. We're gonna give you some things. When you get some time, maybe call me tomorrow. I'll tell you what we were thinking.
yeah,
And I appreciate you. Thank you for getting me on here. And we'll see if Garrett fires me tomorrow.
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you said anything, but you got to help me get Garrett on here. I mean, I know I've known Garrett forever. Like I haven't seen him in years and years, but I used to see Garrett at the
Give
Incline
me a
Club.
Garrett story.
Man, the best is I just remember Garrett when I must have been 14 going to the Incline Club, and he seemed like he was so much younger than me. I don't know how much younger he is, but when you're 14 and someone's like 11, that seems like a lot, And I just remember he was this little kid, and like he probably should have been on an 18-inch bike, but he was on a 20-inch, and he had I don't know if he had UGP shorts or just big UGP knee pads, but like the baggy shorts era, because this is 2001. And man, I would just be like watching this little kid air a quarter like over my head. And I remember he was at this point he was doing no foot can airs, and it was just like the craziest thing. I never seen a little kid that good, and he's always been good. I remember he used to always be there with his father.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard his dad made him do like when he first started, like when he'd come to the skate park, he'd have to do X amount of bunny hop bar spins, and then before he left, he had to do X amount or something. I remember just people saying his dad was like drilling him, but not in a mean way, but just to push him. And I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense the way he rides. Like he's a machine.
It's great. Well, Scotty was crazier. Scotty was always there. Now we're freaking going on a tangent again.
Yo,
we'll talk about this later. No.
All right, love you. Bye.
Thank you. I'll see you later. Thank you. I'll see you all at the skate park later.
You caught on.